Introduction. Thousands of women struggle with reaching a healthy weight, and it's not through lack of trying or wanting it bad enough. For many women, it feels like there's some kind of psychological hurdle that stops them from reaching the health they want. The techniques within this book were crafted throughout years I've been running my physical and mental health program, Abrams Kaizen Method Training Program. Let's start from the beginning and explain why a man is writing a book for women's health. Then we'll go through the exact strategies used by thousands of women that have helped them balance their hormones, lose weight, improve emotional well being, and love how they look, all accomplished without using willpower. How did I write this? I vividly remember being in the passenger seat of a van, sitting on top of week old McDonald's French fries, feeling the warm glow of the summer sun on my skin. And we were driving home from a friend's house. My mom and I were going about 40 miles an hour down Highway 50. And while merging into traffic, I had this overwhelming compulsion to open the door, jump out, and end my life. I was only 5 years old, but suicide just felt right. Before reaching the age of 32, I would lose 3 of my 6 brothers, one to inoperable brain cancer, another to a motorcycle accident, and another to suicide. It took 18 years of my life before I learned the exact strategies that worked for me to be able to wake up happy. It's why I take mental health very seriously. I know what the other side of that darkness feels like, and I want others to experience the same. 4 years later, my wife, Jen, started battling with her own mental health problems. She was working these crazy hours, managing 3 different retail stores, and the stressors mounted on top of each other, from having to confront shoplifting employees to furious customers to struggling to uphold a toxic relationship with a narcissistic family member. Day by day, I watched her grow more and more distant, lost in her own insecurities and doubts. Not only did her mental health go downhill, but so did her physical health. The number on the scale started to increase steadily over the next year. She gained about 20 pounds. And by the end of the year, by the time New Year's rolled around, she would find out that she's pregnant with our first daughter. As a result, she would put on another 40 pounds of body fat in the next 9 months, placing her a whopping 60 pounds overweight. I had her follow the traditional weight loss advice of calories in, calories out. We didn't put any focus on anything except for calories because that's all she needed to lose weight, or so I thought. Because of the unintentional nutrient deficit she was in, her hair started falling out, her nails became brittle, her depression fell even deeper. And in her own words, the more I count calories, the more I crave sugar. It's like I'm being teased by what I can't have, and it feels terrible. At that moment, I knew there had to be more to the puzzle because conventional advice was failing her. So I dove into the research, ferociously reading 1 to 3 books a week on everything I could related to sleep, stress, diet, exercise, the microbiome, and women's hormonal health in order to help her. And by implementing these strategies that I learned from books and from research, I was able to help her lose that excess 60 pounds of body fat. And she only needed a couple months to do so. And the best part is that she's able to effortlessly maintain her weight loss without counting calories, without taking supplements, and without using willpower. The system that I used for her to help her see these incredible results for her physical, mental, and emotional health is how my Kaizen Method training program was born. What is the Kaizen Method training program? The key to why this is so insanely effective is not just from the strategies laid out in this book. It's also the Kaizen method implementation itself. Kaizen is a Japanese term for continuous improvement, which takes the 1% positive improvements that, when implemented gradually, add up to massive results over time. I have coupled this methodology with the minimum effective dose. This is the minimum amount of time, energy, and effort required to achieve a desired result. If you get better by just 1% each day, by the end of a year, you're not just 365% better. Because of the power of compounding daily improvements, you'll be nearly 3,800% better by the end of the year. To lose weight without willpower means you continuously improve by 1% with your physical, mental, emotional, and hormonal health. When done the right way, this can absolutely transform your life for the better. Is it safe and effective? As a nationally accredited health coach and public speaker on women's health, I was able to use my experience to create this program to show that if you're intelligent, all you need is the right plan and mindset for this to work. To date, the strategy has been implemented for thousands of busy, intelligent women, helping them drop anywhere from 20 to over 100 plus pounds of body fat. And it wasn't from counting calories, taking supplements, or doing anything remotely unhealthy like a detox or a cleanse. It was just a byproduct of making themselves a priority. These women learned how to reset their microbiome, balance their hormonal system, and become mentally strong enough to handle whatever life threw their way. We're so confident in this methodology, we have a 100% money back guarantee for every woman who enrolls and follows the steps inside my Kaizen Method training program. And since the program started, we've never had anyone to follow the plan and not reach their desired results physically, mentally, and emotionally. Following the advice in this book will give you the strategies needed for long term success. Notice I say strategies because there are strategies and then there are tactics. Strategies can be used forever because it's an overarching thought process to solve complex problems. Tactics are the exact implementation that an individual should follow based on their own personal life. If I was going to give out every possible tactic, it would cause two major problems. One, the list of tactics would be never ending because new research and tactics come out all the time. And two, giving examples of tactics used just causes people to immediately implement those tactics for themselves in the hopes of having similar results. For example, one of the women in our program made exactly 3 changes to her diet and has lost over 90 pounds of body fat. If you want to lose 90 pounds of body fat, that sounds freaking amazing. But her tactics might not work for you. In fact, they might be detrimental to you reaching your goals. That being said, there are very solid overarching strategies that have worked for clients following the Kaizen Method training program, including my microbiome reset, balancing hormones, and psychological training. On top of those 3, which we'll be covering in this book, I am also including bonuses that you can access at any time to help speed up your results, depending on what the latest research has to offer at www.healthyweightwithoutwillpower.com/bonus. Most important step. Although what you're about to read has helped thousands of women before you and will help thousands more to come, there is one thing that needs to happen or else this is completely useless. When I first started my career as a professional health coach, I was a bleeding heart that did everything in my power to help women want to get better. But this led me to making the biggest mistake of my career. And although I'd heard this advice before, I never took it seriously. You cannot help someone who doesn't want to be helped, including yourself. So, in the next chapter, I will walk through how to actually make yourself a priority, and I want you to take this seriously. If you do not make yourself a priority, you have no chance at long term success. Do not wish for an easier life because life is only going to get harder. Instead, become mentally, emotionally, and hormonally strong enough to handle whatever life throws your way. Oftentimes, women will make their work, spouse, partner, or their kids their number one priority. But this is faulty thinking, and I can prove it. It is ingrained into the female psyche that they should sacrifice for the ones they care for. And if they don't, they feel a crushing sense of guilt. But if you really think about this, you'll see that self sacrifice doesn't make sense. Nobody's life gets worse when your life gets better. And I just want to pause. This is like just in the audio version. Let that sink in, please. Nobody's life gets worse when your life gets better. Try and make a list of all the people whose lives get worse when yours improves. Are your kids ever going to complain that you don't snap at them enough or that you are being too good of an example for them? Is your spouse ever going to be upset that you finally feel comfortable in your own skin? Does your professional life suffer when you have more energy, more focus, and you have a more positive outlook on life? What about if you actually put yourself first and took control of your life and happiness? I want to ask you an honest question right now. You've been taking care of everyone else this whole time. When is it your turn? While you're always focused on making all of them happy, who will be the one that puts you first? It needs to be you. Making yourself your number one priority will improve the lives of those you love exponentially. And it doesn't mean you need to neglect anyone. It means you'll be able to show up as the best mother, the best friend, the best wife, and the best woman you can be. Becoming that better version of you is 100% in your control, and you owe it to those you care about to lead by example on what a truly happy life looks like. You come first. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Who needs to know? The reality is that not everyone is a positive, uplifting force in our lives. Some people are inherently toxic, so you need to share your upcoming journey with the right people. Most people on this planet want to help others. You have way more secret admirers cheering you on in the background than you do vocal haters. A good way to know who makes the cut is to answer these questions. When you share good news with someone in your life, how do they respond? If they say, "That's nice," and move on without celebrating your achievement or at least making you feel accomplished, then they are not the right person to be talking to about this. If instead they hype you up and make you feel like a champion for improving yourself, then those are the people you want to share your journey with. Dealing with toxic people and where to find the right people to put on your team will be covered more in depth in part 3, dealing with toxic people and removing mental roadblocks, respectively. Where do I start? What aspect of your health and fitness, if improved, would improve all other aspects of your physical and mental health? That's what I call your lead domino. And identifying this is step 1, because working on this will give you the most amount of benefit for the least amount of effort, your minimum effective dose. If you picked up this book, chances are you've tried traditional methods of losing weight like counting calories, exercise, eating like a rabbit, or worse, detox, cleanses. There are different aspects that make up your overall well being, such as your microbiome, hormonal balance, and psychology. Let's say you or a professional health coach you trust says your lead domino is hormonal balance. After identifying that hormonal balance is your lead domino, put your time, energy, and effort into improving that aspect of your health by at least 1% a day. Because if you were to improve hormonally, it would trigger the optimal domino effect you're looking for. Reducing the stress hormone cortisol means you'd be better able to psychologically handle stressful events. Less stress means less stress eating and more healthy food choices. Healthier food leads to more energy and motivation to be active. More activity leads to better sleep. Better sleep further improves hormonal balance. And there you have it. You have a domino effect that has you improving every aspect of your life by just focusing on the most important part. And I don't mean you need to flip your whole life upside down. I said improving very intentionally, because improvement, not perfection, is why the Kaizen Method training program works without fail. Impossible to fail. Following the Kaizen Method training methodology of improving compared to your previous self guarantees you'll be successful. Think about it for 2 seconds, you'll know this is true. If all you do is improve, even by 1%, compared to your previous self, it is quite literally impossible to fail. When you focus on improving compared to your previous self instead of perfection or comparing yourself to someone else's journey, you'll prevent self-sabotaging behavior. And notice I keep saying improvement compared to your previous self. That means you're asking the question, what would my previous self have done in this exact situation with the exact same things going on in my life? And if you can honestly answer that you're doing even 1% better than what your previous self would have done in the past, then you're on the right track for success. Imagine that you've had a long day and you're completely burnt out. You're coming home from running errands, it's late, you've eaten nothing the past 12 hours, and get home only to find that you've accidentally left your healthy meal out and it's gone bad. You look in the freezer and your favorite comfort food is there: ice cream. Your past self would have eaten the whole tub of ice cream and beaten yourself up, turning a bad meal into a bad week, creating a spiral of self-sabotaging behavior where you eat all of the junk food in sight. But your current self decided to stop 3 bites before finishing the tub of ice cream. Yes, you still ate ice cream. But compared to your previous self, is that an improvement? Absolutely. Now you feel in control despite a temporary lapse, and you've stopped the vicious cycle of self sabotage before it started. This gives your body a chance to go through a microbiome reset, So even when you're stressed, your body doesn't crave that ice cream anymore. All right, now we're into part one, microbiome reset. This is where you're going to learn everything about diet and how to reset your microbiome so you start to physically crave eating healthy foods and you never need to count calories again. So let's just dive in. No supplements needed. When you think of the healthiest individuals on the planet, we often think of Olympic level athletes or people that look like they live in the gym. Their goal is to optimize the amount of muscle they put on their body because it helps them perform at their peak ability in a given sport. In order to maximize and maintain their muscle growth, their diets must carefully track every gram of complete protein needed for protein synthesis so their muscles can adequately recover. The $37.2 billion per year supplement industry has jumped all over this fact and has brainwashed the average person and many personal trainers into thinking it's impossible to be healthy without a protein powder or supplements. But how much of that is the truth and how much of that is marketing? If you are looking to be a high level athlete, then yes, you should maintain a minimum amount of complete protein in your diet. That's great for bodybuilding. But if you're not trying to get bigger or train for an elite level competition, then there's an easier and much healthier way to lose weight. Eat food that looks like it comes from nature. Most personal trainers, health coaches, fitness gurus, etc., freaking love exercise and are often athletes or former athletes themselves. So the protein recommendation makes sense to them. But if you're trying to lose weight, then swapping out a nutrient dense apple for a protein powder makes no sense. The problem is that there is so much money spent on marketing and promoting these biased studies for supplement companies' quick fixes that it feels wrong to think protein intake shouldn't be our top priority. They get away with this misleading information because, yes, it's great for athletes. It's terrible for people looking to lose a significant amount of body fat and keep it off for the rest of their lives. Added protein is just an unnecessary change you'll have to pay to maintain for years to come, which is exactly what they want. I'll get off my soapbox about how damaging the obsession with protein has been for the average person's long term success and just say this. How many people have tried to lose weight by adding protein shakes to their diet only to fail long term? Millions. Insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Maybe it's time for a different approach to weight loss that doesn't involve counting. Stop counting calories. If you have done the smallest amount of research into weight loss, you've undoubtedly come across the statement, it's just calories in versus calories out. That statement is about as helpful as saying a jet plane just needs fuel to fly. While technically true, the advice is completely useless, and here's why. Following the jet plane analogy, instead of giving it jet fuel, try giving it regular gasoline like you give to your car. It might burn that fuel. It might even be able to drive around the airport, or even it might even be able to have enough energy to take off and fly around. But it's just a matter of time before that plane crashes. Why? Although technically also being a fuel source, it's not what the jet plane needs to soar to its best ability. The exact same thing happens when we put the wrong type of calories into our bodies, except the damage is to our digestive system, energy levels, self worth, mood, and overall hormonal balance. Just think about your own personal experience. How do you feel after binge eating junk food? It's never a positive experience. If you're like most other intelligent women, you know you shouldn't be eating the junk food while you're eating it. You also know that different foods affect you in different ways. So when we put all of our focus into calorie counting, we forget that some of the things we eat and drink simply don't agree with us digestively. And foods that make us feel like crap physically make us feel like crap mentally. If you're on the verge of throwing up, I can guarantee you aren't in a positive mindset. Let's use lactose intolerance for example. If you have too much lactose, there's gas, bloating, indigestion, and sometimes diarrhea. But what happens if you just have a little lactose? It just makes your digestive health a little worse. So your mood and energy are a little worse. Your self-worth and hormonal balance are also a little worse. Putting all your focus into the number of calories you're eating and fixating on restricting doesn't work. You know this. Instead, the focus should be on finding foods that make you look and feel amazing. That psychological aspect of this makes all the difference. Because you know that the junk food is bad, this creates a massive psychological hurdle to overcome called the white bear effect. This happens when I tell you not to think about something. So, right now, Don't think about a white bear. Don't think about a polar bear. Don't think about stuffed bears that are white. Don't think about that white holiday bear from the Coca-Cola commercials. Don't even think about the word white bear. Even though I just explicitly told you not to think about white bears, you can't help but think about what? White bears. Why? Because even though we are told not to think about something, that is stored in our back of our minds so we know what to avoid. When you're told not to do something, this leads to obsessive thinking. If I tell you not to eat junk food, the same thing happens. I can say, I don't care what you eat, just do not eat junk food. No cookies, no cake, no pizza, no potato chips. Do not eat any junk food at all. Now imagine you've just been told that you need to give a speech tomorrow on a subject you know nothing about. It will be in front of the whole company, and your promotion depends on it. You are frantically trying to prepare so you don't look like an idiot in front of everyone. So you're stressed out and you forgot to get dinner. Looking around, you see fresh fruits on the table, ingredients for a healthy meal you can make, but then you open the freezer and your favorite pizza is right there. What are the chances you're going to cook and eat that pizza? More than likely. Now, we'll use the exact same scenario, but focus on adding to your diet instead of a restriction. We can use that white bear effect and your intelligence to your advantage. I find out that your favorite fruit is apples, so I tell you, I just want you to eat one apple today. I don't care what you eat, just make sure you have at least one apple. It can be a Red Delicious, Granny Smith, Honey Crisp, doesn't matter. Just eat one apple today. Even though you can go through the exact same stressful events, you have the goal of adding something to your diet you love instead of focusing on restriction. Apples being your favorite fruit, do you think you can manage to eat one apple? Even if you go through all those same stressors, you have this insane work deadline tomorrow and you haven't eaten and you're just freaking out, you could still eat that one apple. And what happens when you eat that one apple? You get all the delicious nutrients, fiber, feel good hormones that are released from accomplishing your goal. Even if you only ate one apple, you'd still naturally eat less pizza, which means you'd have fewer calories. You'd feel accomplished and you'd likely stick to your diet long term. Plus, since your diet is a little better, your mood and energy is a little better, your self worth and hormonal balance are also a little better. Do this with enough of the right foods and you'll dramatically improve your gut microbiome. This way, you can lose all the weight you want without counting calories. So throw out your notions of calories in versus calories out and focus on what actually helps you lose weight: a microbiome reset. Microbiome reset? What is your microbiome and why should you try to reset it? Imagine you have a nature park filled with different plant eating animals like elephants, buffalo, deer, rabbits, birds, and more. Each animal eats something different, so the ones being fed their specific foods will reproduce and repopulate. Now imagine that, but at a microscopic level, and those animals are called microbes inside your digestive system. Your nature park is your microbiome is made up of trillions of microbes. Just like your nature park's animals, there are thousands of different kinds of microbes that, when fed what they specifically eat, will reproduce, repopulate, and take up more of your total gut microbiome. If you only feed the animals in your nature park birdseed, you're going to end up with a lot of birds and not much else. The more you eat junk food, the more you physically crave eating junk food because your body is being conditioned for it. By comparison, anything remotely healthy seems repulsive because junk food is all your body knows how to function on. You can reverse these junk cravings, however. If you feed your microbiome more food that looks like it comes from nature, that's what it will adapt to and eventually want. Eating more apples makes you crave eating more apples. And when you eat more apples, you'll naturally eat less junk food. Eating less junk food helps you lose weight. And if all you do is crave eating healthy foods, then sticking to a healthy diet is easy because it doesn't require willpower. That is why the microbiome reset is so powerful. 1, it's backed by science. 2, it doesn't require willpower. 3, there's no counting calories. And 4, there's no supplements or powders or pills or anything like that. The goal doesn't need to be for you to follow a paleo or plant-based or carnivorous or any other specific diet. The goal is to eat the right foods that look like they come from nature to reset your microbiome. When it comes to weight loss specifically, What's most important is determining both the ideal amounts and the perfect times to consume water, fruits, and vegetables specifically. Water, fruits, and vegetables. Oh my! I have identified what I believe to be the three major reasons why drinking water before meals is effective for weight loss. One, when you drink water immediately before meals, it helps to pre fill your stomach, and you'll physically feel more full when eating the exact same number of calories. Two, water helps to slow down digestion, which in turn reduces an insulin spike. Three, it is critically important to aid in digestion of fiber you're getting from fruits and vegetables. Back to the first point. By pre filling your stomach with water, you physically feel more full, so you naturally eat less. Right before your meal, having 8 ounces of water is a good place to start. If you feel thirsty, feel free to have more. It doesn't need to be exactly 8 ounces every time. And just as a side note for all you people listening to the book on this one, this isn't in the book. Overall water intake is not as important as water right before meals specifically. So if you're someone that drinks water all the time, like you're someone that drinks like a gallon of water a day, that is more than likely completely unnecessary and is doing nothing to help you lose weight. It might just be, helping you get your steps in or making you pee all the time. But if you're going pee all the time and your urine is not tinted yellow, as in it is like just pure clear, you're just overhydrated and that's not doing anything for you. When you want to lose weight, you don't have to follow that, half your body weight in ounces and whatnot. You just need to have water specifically right before your meals. I don't even care about the water in general. Like if you're thirsty, drink water. But if you want to lose weight and you want water to have its massive benefits, you have to have it right before meals specifically. All right, tangent aside, back to the book. When combined with eating fruits or vegetables with your meal, it also aids in preventing blood sugar spikes. When your blood sugar spikes, then you have another hormonal spike to counteract it, insulin. And I'm going to simplify insulin here just to make it really easy to understand what's going on. Insulin is a transport hormone that helps to lower blood sugar levels. And it does this by shuttling that sugar that it's getting from your food, like the carbohydrates, the sugar from that, into fat cells, into muscles, into other regions of your body where it can be burned for energy or it can be stored for later use. All foods have an effect on insulin levels to varying degrees. We need insulin to have hormonal balance. So the problem isn't insulin per se, but rather a spike in insulin. Because if blood sugar spikes up, then insulin will also spike up. When this happens, your body can physically feel the subsequent drop in blood sugar. That sudden drop is the problem. If your body's blood sugar drops too low, it starves your brain of the energy it needs, which can lead to seizures or even a coma. Even if you are within normal blood sugar ranges as it's dropping rapidly, it still shuts off the satiety hormones and kicks your hunger hormones into overdrive to get you to avoid having those life-threatening events. Even though those life-threatening events aren't actually going to happen, your body is basically perceiving that that's what's going to happen. So it basically makes you ravenously hungry. This is exactly how binge eating happens, where you have the physical ability to stuff your face with an insane amount of food in one sitting. Your blood sugar increases and plummets over and over. Increases when you eat food, plummets when insulin is released. Those sharp spikes up and down cause this never-ending hunger and more calories to be stored as fat. In the book, I have a diagram. It basically looks like a mountain. You're basically in a valley. It goes up to a peak, down to a valley, up to a peak, over and over. If instead you were to have that water before your meals, along with a whole fruit where you eat the skin or a vegetable, then the combination of that fiber and the volume of water would prevent the spike from happening. Nobody binge eats whole fruits or vegetables because it's not possible. The amount of fiber and satiety hormones released from these foods prevents it. Fiber is a carbohydrate, but it should never be counted as something that causes weight gain. When I'm talking about fiber, I'm specifically talking about insoluble fiber. Because unlike other carbohydrates, our bodies do not break it down for energy. The reasons why we need dietary fiber are threefold. One, it helps to regulate blood sugar levels. Two, it creates satiety. Three, it aids in digestion. Because it helps to regulate blood sugar levels, it also helps to prevent that spike in insulin that we want to avoid. Once again, in the book, now I have the same graph where it goes from a valley to a peak, down to a valley, up to a peak, but it's a lot more flat. So we don't have, a big increase up and down. So no insulin spike means fewer calories stored as fat because you are less hungry. And if you're less hungry, you eat less. It aids in our digestion by entering our intestines, and because our bodies recognize that we can't do anything with this insoluble fiber, it gets coated with a mucus and gets pushed through our digestive tract. But if we aren't having water immediately before meals, then this fiber can lead to gas, bloating, a distended belly where you look like you're pregnant, and indigestion because it's trying to pull this mucus out, but it doesn't have the water to do so. With fiber being so useful, a good general rule to follow is choosing which processed foods are healthiest and use something called the 3-to-1 carb to fiber ratio. For every 3 grams of carbohydrates, you want at least 1 gram of fiber in order to prevent that insulin spike. This only applies to processed foods that don't look like they come from nature. You can go nuts on whole fruits and vegetables because the skin on them has all the fiber and all the good stuff you need for the anti-obesity effects. Nobody's ever eaten 5 bags of apples and been like, "Oh, I had such a bender. I went on this apple," but that doesn't happen. So don't worry about it. Go nuts on apples. Nobody in the history of mankind has ever become morbidly obese because they ate too many whole fruits. And you will not be the first one. Notice I said whole fruits too. I'm talking about fruits where you eat the whole thing, including the outside of it. So like cherries, blueberries, raspberries, etc., all make the cut because you eat the skin. Whereas if you were to eat oranges or watermelon or like bananas, you'd never eat the whole thing, so those don't count. When using the 3-to-1 rule, you can eat just about anything. 3-to-1 rule for eating anything. It's best to try to eat foods that look like they come from nature rather than trying to substitute one processed food for another, like having whole wheat bread versus white bread. Either way, it's bread. There's no bread tree. There's no bread that looks like it comes from nature, so neither one is like the epitome of health. Sometimes you either want to eat something else or you just don't have a choice. You can't always eat food that looks like it comes from nature. Implementing the 3-to-1 rule helps reduce the negative hormonal effects that processed foods have. Here's an example to make this super clear using Greek yogurt from Oikos. Note, dietary fiber is a carbohydrate. So if there's any fiber inside of the processed food, it will be listed right underneath carbohydrates on a nutrition label. So for all my audiobook people here, I'm looking at a nutrition label while I'm talking about these things. Looking at the label for this, you divide total carbohydrates by dietary fiber, and that's how you get the ratio. The number you're looking for is 3 or less. So you're trying to divide carbs divided by fiber equals 3 or less. In this example, the label I show has carbohydrates as 6 and fiber as 0. So there's no fiber at all. This yogurt would be one that doesn't meet the carb to fiber ratio necessary to prevent that blood sugar spike we talked about in the previous chapter that causes that subsequent insulin spike, which leads to you storing more body fat and being more hungry and eating more. In this case, to actually get that desired ratio, to get that number to be the 3-to-1 ratio that we're looking for, you need to add in either whole fruits or vegetables that look like they come from nature in order to increase the fiber to a point where it gets that 3-to-1 ratio. We want to try to get at least 2 grams of fiber from a food that looks like it comes from nature. For example, raspberries. Looking up the fiber of raspberries, it's 0.1 grams of fiber per raspberry. Dividing 2 by 0.1, we see that it would take about 20 raspberries eaten with this cup of yogurt to get the ratio we're looking for. But do you see what happened? We just added a bunch of food that looks like it comes from nature, and we naturally hit the goal we're looking for. And in order to have that hormonal balance that we want. So if you were to just focus on getting your plate 50% or more food that looks like it comes from nature versus trying to remove quote unquote cheat foods, it'll naturally limit the amount of processed food you eat in your diet, and you can't physically eat as much as you normally eat, and there are anti-obesity effects inside of fruits and vegetables. It will also help to reduce inflammatory responses that happen from having these processed foods. And oftentimes, inflammation is what stops us from losing weight. So use the 3-to-1 ratio and try to hit that ratio when you're eating processed foods, and that will help inflammation and the cure to leaky gut. What is inflammation and leaky gut, and why do so many people seem to care about it? Most people have a negative image connected with the word inflammation, but I want you to think of it as your body's response when trying to heal from something. Inflammation is needed because it helps to get good stuff in and bad stuff out of the areas that need to be healed. The flip side of that is that if it's not properly controlled or is being caused by leaky gut, it causes a multitude of problems, including poor sleep quality, low energy, achy joints, inability to lose weight despite having a calorie deficit. Leaky gut is a concept that when your microbiome becomes unhealthy, it causes gaps that allow leaks from your gut. Inside your intestines are barrier cells called epithelial cells. These transport nutrients from your food into your bloodstream. They have tight junctions between them to prevent undigested food particles, waste, and toxins from entering your blood and causing health issues. When your microbiome is weak, it can loosen these epithelial junctions, which allow for a leaky gut. When the cell junctions can't keep together, all the toxins can spread throughout your body. This amplifies the inflammation in wherever these particles go, and they're going all over. So you basically get inflamed all over your body. The best strategy to reduce inflammation and to cure leaky gut is to follow the 4 steps I lay out below. Once it is under control, then you can go back to eating a more typical way of eating. You don't need to follow this protocol forever, just to get inflammation under control. When following these 4 steps, only proceed to the next step after 4 days of implementing the step that you're on. So just to make this clear, if you're on step 1, follow step 1 for 4 days. If your inflammatory problems are not resolved or do not improve, then add in step number 2. After 4 days after that, after 8 days total, then step 3. After 12 days total, step 4, so on and so forth. Step 1, pause intake of highly processed foods, specifically fried foods, soda, processed meat, and alcohol. These specifically have been shown to make leaky gut worse and prevent healing. A temporary break from these might do the trick for you. Step 2, actively reduce through anti-inflammatory foods. Add in cold pressed celery juice, tomatoes, green leafy vegetables like spinach, kale, collard, seacrest, etc., nuts, fish, and whole fruits where you eat the skin. The more the better with these foods. 90% plus of your plate should be foods that look like they come from nature. So think of foods that are like salads, stir fries, soups, things like that. Step 3, actively reduce through steps. Walking activates a muscle pump that has been shown to reduce inflammation throughout your body. Audio people here, I'm just going to explain it a little bit further. So basically your body has like one-way valves going from your feet all the way back up to your lungs. So that way, all the blood doesn't just pool in your feet. Each time you take a step, I'm really simplifying it, but it basically constricts the tube that goes from your feet back up to your lungs where it can be oxygenated, pumped back into your heart, and then set through your body. You have one-way valves though. So each time you move your foot, imagine taking a step or doing ankle pumps or doing anything where you put your body weight on it. It will be moving that blood through your body, increase circulation. Increasing that circulation is what is actually going to reduce the inflammation. So, steps specifically is one of the things that's really easy, and we know for sure that we are activating that muscle pump. So back to the book. Gradually increase daily step count by 1,000 steps a day until weight trends downward. Movement in general is helpful because, once again, we're trying to get circulation through your body. So this is likely the last step to get inflammation under control. Step 4. Remove/reduce medications. I want to preface this and say, only do this if medically necessary and under the supervision of your doctor. This advice is for when you're taking over-the-counter medication in excess. So if you have prescribed medications, go ahead and ask your doctor if it's okay to reduce them because you're dealing with chronic inflammation, or ask them if it's something that caused inflammatory problems. Normally, you can get all of your inflammation under control with the first 3 steps, though. Step 4 is pretty rare unless you're just taking over-the-counter drugs in excess. All of these will help with acute bouts of inflammation and leaky gut. But the long-term solution is to have a healthier diet overall, and it's easier than you might think. Healthy eating? Healthy compared to what? The term healthy eating is so arbitrary and subjective, it's not helpful unless you have a clear definition for what that is for you. You will always be eating healthy if you ask the question, healthy compared to what? If you compare what you're currently eating against what your past self would eat, then you'll know if it's actually healthy or not. Remember, we want improvement, not perfection. The goal with your diet is to eat more food that looks like it comes from nature. The closer to what it looks like in nature, the healthier it is. Let's put you through a quiz so you can get it burned into your mind and know with 100% certainty when you're eating healthy. Are nachos with cheese and jalapenos healthy? Before you answer, you have to ask yourself, healthy compared to what? What would my previous self have chosen? Are nachos with cheese and jalapenos healthy compared to what you would have eaten before? If your previous self would have eaten nachos without jalapenos, then yes, it's super healthy choice because you're eating more food that looks like it comes from nature. The fiber and the spice from the jalapeno will increase your metabolism along with give you the ability to eat the same number of calories and lose weight. If your previous self, though, would have eaten a big Honeycrisp apple, then nachos and cheese is incredibly unhealthy because you'd be eating much less food that looks like it comes from nature. There is no need to overcomplicate diets. Optimal gut health comes from drinking water, getting your fruits and vegetables in, getting as close to nature as you can with the foods that you eat, and adding in one more change. This last one has been around for close to 4,000 years, and the research is finally catching up. The 4,000-year-old secret. It wasn't until the last few years that research on fermented foods finally started catching up with what people have been reporting their whole lives. Fermented foods help aid in weight loss, improve microbiome health, and even aid in mental well-being. There are 2 fermented foods, specifically kimchi and sauerkraut, that seem to have the largest benefits. Kimchi is a traditional Korean side dish of salted and fermented vegetables, normally cabbage, and is often spicy in flavor. Sauerkraut is from Germany and is almost always just finely shredded cabbage pickled in brine with a sour flavor that comes from the fermenting process. Having fermented foods on a regular basis helps to dramatically improve gut health by introducing trillions of those positive microbes to your gut. Because remember what we talked about before, you're giving your body the microbes, you're feeding the microbes so they reproduce and repopulate and take up more of your total gut microbiome. A healthy gut makes you feel good mentally. And when your gut's digestion improves, that improves everything. In fact, studies have shown that depression can be cured up to 30% of the time only by adding fermented foods. Let that sink in. You could cure depression by adding in kimchi. It's like a cheat code for phenomenal gut health. This change alone often is the missing puzzle piece for clients to consistently drop body fat because the food doesn't get stuck inside your body. You feel more energized, and it also helps mitigate unwanted cravings. Please note that if you're going to introduce kimchi or sauerkraut to a diet, then start with a small amount at first and then gradually increase over time. The more the better with both of these, honestly. For example, have 1 bite of it before dinner and see how you feel for the next 24 hours. Then add 2 bites and so on and so forth. You also want to make sure that you do not cook the kimchi or sauerkraut. It's fermented with active living cultures, and if you cook it, you're going to kill those. You don't want to kill the microbes that you're trying to introduce to your gut. Feel free to eat it with hot food, but don't cook it directly if you want to have the same benefits from it. And just as a side note, no, yogurt doesn't work. They are fermented foods, but the problem with yogurts, as we talked about before, they're just loaded with sugar, and they don't have near the same benefits for your mental and physical and hormonal health that, if at all possible, switch to kimchi for your fermented food intake. I wouldn't even recommend yogurt in general, because there's no yogurt that looks like it comes from nature, you know? That's just a little bonus piece of knowledge for the people that picked up the audiobook. Also, because of the high fiber content, be sure to have water beforehand so you don't end up with the negative aspects of having fiber without water. Remember, this was like bloating, indigestion, gas, etc. Individuals with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, are recommended to start with an even smaller amount, like the size of a pea. Like make it really, really, really small so it doesn't have a chance to like set off any type of problems. And another side note for the people that are listening to the audiobook, I've had I don't know how many clients that have done this that have had IBS and it totally helped with all of their symptoms. They feel like $1,000,000 when they have sauerkraut or kimchi. Other clients with IBS, it can cause a complete blowout. So start really, 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 really small. You don't want to find the upper limit. So when you introduce the good microbes, they will reproduce and repopulate. If you were normally having no fermented foods at all, and now you start, even if you just have like a sliver of kimchi, it can lead to massive improvement still. Constantly improving and resetting your microbiome is half the battle. The other half is controlling hunger and keeping your nutrition on track so that once you lose the weight, you can keep it off forever. Hunger woes. Feeling hungry is one of the greatest downfalls of sustaining a healthy diet. Fortunately, there's a solution that simultaneously gets your hunger hormones in check while working against the powerful psychological effect food can have. Before we dive into that solution, we need to explore what we are actually solving. Most people misattribute that hungry feeling because of how we're conditioned growing up, thinking that to be hungry meant we are starving. If you were ever told something along the lines of, finish your food because there are starving children, or eat up so the food doesn't go to waste, then this advice is for you. True hunger is when your available energy stored in your body cannot keep up with the demands. So not only do we want to eat, we need to eat to survive. In other words, true hunger is when you can look at a head of lettuce or unseasoned boiled chicken and desperately want to eat it. Being hungry or feeling like you're starving is often described as a craving for foods that are high in salt, sugar, or fat, or even that rumble in your stomach. Foods that are high in salt, sugar, and fat have a incredible and psychological effect similar to that of cocaine and can drop our stress levels from a 10 out of 10 down to 0 as soon as they touch your taste buds. So chances are that the more you want to eat these foods, the more stress you're experiencing in your life. This is also known as stress eating. And another side note on stress eating, literally when that food that's high in salt, sugar, and fat touches your tongue, I don't mean like it reduces stress. I literally mean you have no physical symptoms of stress. So imagine your body is going through life and it's trying to get you to stop experiencing stress. And let's say you're eating like potato chips. As soon as that potato chip hits your tongue and you taste it, you have no stress. No stress makes your body compulsively want to eat that more. So you feel like you can keep eating and eating and eating, but as soon as you swallow it, that stress comes right back. So you go from 10 out of 10 stress down to 0, back to 10, 0, 0, 10. And that's how that's one of the other symptoms of stress eating and why binge eating can happen when you're stressed out. Back to the book. The rumble in your stomach often doesn't have anything to do with hunger or starvation. All you're hearing is peristalsis, which is the undulation of your digestive tract as it moves food through your system. When there's a gap between the food that's moving in your intestines, then you hear the echo between that empty space. Typically, this is heard after eating or drinking something because it's moving whatever you just ate or drank last, and there's a gap between that and whatever you had before. If you don't want to stress eat or experience an embarrassingly loud rumble in your stomach, let's first walk through the hormonal aspects so you can switch hunger on or off at will. The hunger switch. The human body is either in rest and digest, hunger, or fight or flight, stimulation. It's impossible to have both at the same time. All right, just for the audiobook listeners, I know that there's actually 3 states for the neurological system. There's fight or flight, rest and digest, and freeze. Freeze does not apply to what we're trying to talk about here at the hunger switch, though. So I'm just simplifying it so that you think about this the correct way. Think about your body either being in rest and digest or fight or flight all the time. So you can either have hunger or you can have stimulation. You can't have both at the same time. Back to the book. Try sprinting a mile after eating a big meal and you'll experience this firsthand. It'll be violently rejecting the food already in your system so the resources can be used for the stimulus at hand. You can, however, use this to your advantage if you haven't eaten anything already. This might have already happened to you already, albeit unintentionally, the last time you were working on something with a quickly approaching deadline. You're completely engrossed in your work, then you look up at the clock and realize you've forgotten to eat lunch. Sound familiar? The best part is you don't need to have this fight or flight stimulation triggered 24/7, but you can instead use it strategically for when hunger hormones hit. You'll learn more about balancing your hormones in the next section, but for now, just know that hunger is triggered by your body predicting that food will be eaten soon. That's why whenever you smell food from a fast food restaurant, as you drive past it, you're suddenly ready to eat something, even if moments before you weren't hungry at all. The best ways to strategically shut off hunger is by triggering fight or flight stimulation with caffeine, activity, video games, concentrating on something time bound, and breathing techniques. The breathing techniques one will be covered more in part 2, natural energy boosters. The key word here being to strategically shut off hunger. Hunger hormones aren't released all day. Instead, they're released at times it anticipates you'll be eating soon. This is why the traditional advice of eating 6 meals a day is so detrimental to losing weight. You're training your body to expect a meal every few hours. If you don't have that meal, or as you get closer to that meal, you're going to start feeling super hungry. This technique was actually created by bodybuilders in order to gain weight rapidly because it helps to constantly trigger you being hungry. The small bump in metabolism that you get from eating is not worth having to deal with hunger all day. And once again, audiobook listeners, you get a bonus here. So when you eat anything, your metabolism goes up because it's metabolizing the food. That's why eating 6 meals a day technically increases your metabolism. The problem, though, is that your metabolism and the increase that you get from that has no correlation between that and the amount of body fat that you're losing throughout the day. When people are actually trying to lose body fat, it does not make sense to constantly make yourself hungry. If you want to actually get the benefits from it, it makes sense to not do this and not eat when you're not hungry. So if you're not hungry, don't eat. That means that if you would normally not be hungry at breakfast time, it's 100% okay not to eat at breakfast time. Eat when you're hungry. That's okay. Back to the book. A much better solution is to train your body not to be hungry when it shouldn't be. Let's say you want to prevent snacking between meals. Then at the time you'd normally be snacking, add a stimulant, like a suspenseful TV show, and the hunger will be shut off. The stimulant you choose to shut off hunger can be replaced with any one of these, though. Caffeine. Never go above 100 milligrams at a time so you prevent chances of adrenal fatigue, sleep disruption, or high blood pressure. Black coffee, tea, and carbonated waters under 5 calories all work. Physical activity. Start with walking or other low-level activities so you don't drop your blood sugar into unsafe levels. The goal here is just to get your body moving. Video games. Choose ones that make you feel like you're going to be killed or eliminated, and this will cause the strongest stimulants. Because if you have a stronger stimulant, then you'll be less hungry. Like nobody is like running away from, a lion and they feel like, oh, I got to stop for a snack real quick, that never happens. So if you can play a video game where you feel like you're running out of time or someone's chasing you or whatever it might be, those are the best. Time-bound concentration. This could be working on something with a deadline, an intense book, or that you don't want to put down, or anything else that has an ending time where you actively need to work against the clock. If you keep strategically adding a stimulus at the times you'd normally be hungry, then eventually your body stops sending out those hunger hormone signals at the times you don't want to be eating. And it will adapt to that and stop sending out those signals at those times. The ability to control hunger levels puts you in control. The next step from here is to gather the information you'll need to keep your weight trending downward until you reach a healthy number on the scale. Food photos and data. If you take pictures of everything you eat and drink, you'll be able to narrow down which foods specifically cause you to gain or lose weight. It also helps to prevent unconscious eating. I've seen way too many people gain weight eating salads, and lose weight eating ribs for me not to emphasize how critical taking photos of your food is for long-term success. Without identifying which foods for you specifically work to lose weight, then you'll never end up with the minimum effective dose. And without the minimum effective dose, you'll be forced to use willpower intensive strategies like counting calories or having steamed broccoli and chicken for every meal. The minimum effective dose is what you should strive for in all aspects of life, like we've talked about in previous chapters. It's the minimum amount of changes you need to help you see the results you're looking for. Sometimes it's as easy as eating a certain fruit before meals, and that's the only change you need to make to lose the first 20 pounds. But you'll never know unless you're testing and tracking the data. But Abram, I don't want to take pictures of my food. I like to keep my phone off me during meals, and I don't want people to judge me for taking pictures of what I eat. Remember to catch yourself when you're using your intelligence to come up with all the reasons why you can't be successful. In reality, it takes about 5 seconds to pull out your phone and snap a picture of what you eat. I think that's a good trade-off for never having to count calories again. If you keep forgetting to take pictures, set an alarm on your phone or wear a funny bracelet. Every time you reach for your food, you'll say, "Why am I wearing this bracelet?" Which brings you right back to conscious choice. Eating is not the problem. It's when you do it without thinking that's the problem, which means it's a subconscious thing. And that's what you want to avoid. You have to consciously choose to eat. And once you realize you're in control of what you eat, it's incredibly empowering because when you know you're in control of the moment, you can start to control other aspects of your life. Combine this with tracking your weight for maximum effectiveness. When you weigh yourself, I want you to do it in the morning, before you eat, after you use the bathroom, or in the same clothes or no clothes at all, and track it daily. Then you'll get some very important benefits. Because you're seeing your weight every day, it holds less of an emotional tie to positive or negative feelings. This is because of something called exposure therapy and helps you see weight as data. When you are repeatedly exposed to something, then it's impossible for it to keep the same effect on you over time. If I told you to weigh yourself once a week, then the whole week your weight could be going up and down, and on the weigh-in day, you might spike in water weight, completely knocking you out of your belief to be successful, even if you're doing everything right. There's too many different things that affect water weight. But if you weigh in daily, then you'll see all those fluctuations caused by water weight, and it gives you the ability to see a trend in the right direction. So take photos of everything you eat and drink until your weight is consistently trending in the right direction and the habits of conscious eating are solidified in your mind. You only have to do this again if you've hit a weight loss plateau. Plateaus and the rule of 3. You're eating healthy, moving daily, making all the right decisions, and the next day, you're up by 3 pounds? We've all been there. It feels super demotivating when your actions are all right, but you've plateaued, or they just aren't the results you're looking for. Fortunately, with collecting the right data, this is a very solvable problem. First off, you should know that fluctuations in your weight are 100% normal, and they should be there. Day to day, your water weight can easily fluctuate by 10 pounds or more, depending on hydration levels, salt intake, stress levels, inflammation, etc. To keep your sanity, I want you to follow something I call the rule of 3. The rule of 3 states that you can have your weight stay exactly the same or trend upward for any 3 days in a row. That's to be expected, even if you're doing everything right. But if on the 4th day, your weight is not lower and trending downward for the next 3 consecutive days, then we need to look at the data and adjust from there. I want to show you 2 different examples of real clients I'm working with because if, like them, you're dealing with inflammatory issues, then your weight loss will look different. This is what you can expect your weight loss to look like if you only have periodic inflammatory issues. Notice the overall consistent trend downward with any 4 days of weight data. Around the middle of the weight loss trend, you can see that the weight completely leveled off for multiple days in a row, inflammation, followed by a rapid weight loss once the inflammatory issues were resolved. All right, so all my audio listeners here, let me just explain the graph. A consistent trend downward, it's just like the weight is sloping down every single week. So that's normal. Your weight should just basically consistently trend downward the whole time you're losing weight, for the most part. The client that I'm showing in the graph here should be expected to lose about 100 pounds this year. And below is what weight loss typically looks like when you're dealing with chronic inflammation issues. All right, so audiobook listeners, this is what it looks like. Imagine you have a staircase, and it's flat, drops off, flat, drops off, flat, drops off. That's what it looks like when you deal with chronic inflammation. What I want you to take away from these two people is that the overall trend is still going downward. They are both probably losing body fat in similar amounts. But when you have chronic inflammation, it's like your body is holding on to every ounce of water it can. So having the same weight isn't a bad thing because that means you're still losing body fat, not just having body weight come off as consistently. Audiobook people, another tangent. If you have Hashimoto's or you have some other chronic inflammatory disease, this is really common. Like you will have your weight loss look like a staircase versus something that what a normal person would have, where you can see, anywhere from 0.5 to 5 pounds of body fat lost a week. When you have these chronic inflammatory issues, it's like your weight stays almost exactly the same. You might start at 225 and then it goes to 227, down to 225, down to 223, back to 225, and it kind of like just stays there no matter what you do. And really what you have to make sure you do is you just keep staying on the right track. That's why it's important to look for a trend versus what any specific day. You still want to follow the rule of 3. Because you're losing body fat and not, just losing that body weight as consistently, that's 100% okay. But if your weight is staying nearly the same for any 4 days in a row, it's time to follow the 4 steps in the anti-inflammatory diet as covered in Inflammation and the Cure to Leaky Gut. Those are those 4 steps I talked about before. Let's start with what to do if your weight is fluctuating daily, which is normal, but your weight is not trending in any 4-day period. You can either choose a dietary, psychological, or activity adjustment. This could be fasting, changing the way you go out to eat, specific exercises, or even journaling. Any and all of these can be used to prevent plateaus and can help you improve until you reach a healthy weight. So next, we're going to break down each of these different options for breaking through plateaus individually. Fasting and starvation mode. We're going to go over one of the most misunderstood weight loss methods after hearing about the remarkable story of a normal person with a different perspective that changed the world of fasting forever. Angus Barbieri didn't eat for over a year and lived a completely normal life. Medically supervised, he went 382 days without eating any food at all. He didn't die. He worked a normal job, hung out with normal friends. He lived a mostly normal life. Except he didn't eat. Is that healthy? Let me ask the question. Healthy compared to what? The only thing he allowed himself to consume were fluids, coffee, tea, and salt, to prevent an electrolyte imbalance. This helped him go from 456 pounds down to 180 pounds. That's over 200 pounds of body fat lost from fasting. That sounds pretty healthy to me. The craziest part is that Angus never experienced the starvation mode that so many people are worried about. This man didn't eat for over a year, and he still didn't experience true starvation mode. So what is starvation mode, if not eating over a year didn't trigger it? Starvation mode is when your body starts to eat visceral fat and muscle because it's run out of the body fat to pull energy from. Beliefs like, I'm probably not eating enough. I know skipping meals is terrible. I am starving, are self-sabotaging statements because they aren't true. It doesn't feel good to be hungry. So you're using your intelligence to look for justifications as to why you need to keep eating. But Angus never experienced starvation mode because of his belief system and him knowing that the fat being metabolized was not unhealthy. Marketing companies tell us to avoid starvation mode at all costs, but they're attributing starvation mode to things that are not actually starving or dropping your metabolism into unwanted levels. If you fast in the correct and healthy way, you'll continue to burn body fat you want to lose, and you won't ruin your metabolism in the process. It could also be done while living a totally normal life. The best part about fasting is that it's a massive psychological boost. You feel like you're in complete control of your eating rather than simply enduring a punishment because you're skipping a meal. There are different types of fasts that you could do, and they're all extremely effective for ensuring that you drop body fat. But you want to make sure that you're doing it in the healthiest possible way to avoid any unwanted hunger or blood sugar issues. Here are the general guidelines when it comes to fasting to avoid those issues. 1. Don't be stupid. If your doctor or another healthcare provider has told you, do not fast, then don't. If you get lightheaded, then eat. If your life feels worse while fasting, then stop fasting. This is one strategy and not the only option for losing weight. 2. Get your blood sugar right. If you're going to fast, I recommend that you eat some complex carbs like quinoa, beans, legumes with your last meal before your fast. This has been shown to keep your blood sugar levels in a good place while you fast. 3. Start slow. Try fasting for 16 hours first. That means you'll have an 8-hour eating window. Ideally, with that 8-hour eating window, you have 4 hours or more space between the two meals that you eat inside there. Make sure you avoid snacking during this time to maintain hormonal balance. You'll learn more about balance in part 2, Balancing Hormones Made Easy. 4. Keep exercise light. Do not start high intensity interval training, HIIT programs, or your blood sugar will drop drastically. Only walking during this time is 100% okay. 5. Use stimulants strategically. As discussed in the hunger switch, adding a stimulant strategically will eliminate hunger, like going for walks, video games, working, caffeine. Keep in mind that caffeine doesn't need to be sugary lattes. It should ideally be a carbonated water that's 5 calories or less so it doesn't take you out of the fast. And you don't want more than 100 milligrams of caffeine at a time. 6. Have salt to avoid headaches. A great way to have salt during the fast is a hot cup of bone broth. Veggie broth is okay if you're a plant-based person here. With these in mind, you next want to choose which type of fast is best for you if you want to speed up your fat loss results. The best one is the one that requires the least amount of effort, so choose the one that seems the easiest if you're going to go with any of these. Simple carbohydrate fasting. Abstain from simple carbohydrates for 16 to 24 hours. Basically, I'm talking about carbs that are white or add sugar. This means all bread, pasta, rice, or any other processed foods that don't look like they come from nature. Broth fasting. Only drink heated up bone broth for 16 to 24 hours. You can either make the bone broth yourself or buy it. A brand I like to have is called Zoop. They make bone broths that are delicious. You could just pop it in the microwave and heat it up for 30 seconds or so and have it like you'd have like coffee. Veggie broth is also okay, once again, for if you prefer a plant-based diet. Veggie fasting. Use bone or vegetable broth and add as many vegetables with shirataki noodles as you'd like. So it's like you're doing a fast, but you're still eating, like a soup. So you basically put the vegetables in a broth with shirataki noodles. Shirataki noodles are often referred to as like 0-calorie noodles or like miracle noodles and things like that. There's different brands that have different ones. Shirataki noodles is what you're looking for, though. If you want to have a metabolic boost while you're having this veggie fast and you're just eating this soup all day, you want to make it spicier with seasonings, such as cayenne, red peppers, or just like spicy peppers, jalapenos, things like that, or just even hot sauces work. These fasts can either be baked into a typical week or used to break through plateaus. You want to think about changes that improve your life and lifestyle. You're not trying to go on a diet that makes you miserable. Lifestyle, not diet. I don't believe you should give up your social life just because you're trying to get healthier. Changes you make should not add stress to your life. Give yourself grace when it comes to going out to eat, parties, or celebrations that are out of your normal routine. These changes help to simplify your eating and make long-lasting changes easier. Here are the strategies you can use to stay on track even when life throws all these social events at you. If you can, pre-game it by choosing to eat food from nature before these events, and you'll fill up your stomach before you start eating the main course. This could be as easy as eating a couple apples before you reach your destination. Or, since you're already going to be having water before meals, as discussed in water, fruits, and vegetables, oh my! You simply increase the water intake for an even greater effect. Instead of having 8 ounces of water before your meals, try to have 12 or 16 ounces. Bonus points if you could do this, plus having that apple. If you don't have access to eating food from nature, then a good strategy is to find a meal replacement bar that meets the 3-to-1 carb to fiber ratio. A brand that I like is called Good To Go bars. You can look these up online. You can buy them on Amazon or wherever. You can keep these in your car, purse, or somewhere convenient. Intermittent fasting the day before you go into your social event can be an effective strategy as discussed in the previous chapter, fasting and starvation mode. Another before meal option is adding apple cider vinegar. The great part about this is that it's also been shown to help you get deeper sleep as well. And you don't even have to add that much. 2 tablespoons before your meal is all you need. My personal favorite is Bragg's. If you don't like the taste, these are the 2 most common ways to drink it. Add 1 tablespoon of honey to the apple cider vinegar, microwave the mixture for 5 to 10 seconds, then take it like a shot. Immediately after you have it, take a sip of apple cider. Not apple cider vinegar, but actual normal apple cider. It is a phenomenal chaser and makes the taste go away instantly. The other option, add 2 tablespoons to 16 ounces of water so it's super diluted. This has the added bonus of getting the water you need in before meals and further aids in weight loss. So you can actually go out to eat, and if you were to, take this apple cider vinegar and mix it in with a cup of water and drink that before your meal, you could still lose weight. Simplifying your diet can do wonders for long term success as well. Having a simple, nutrient dense meal replacement, such as a smoothie, can do the trick. The key is to make the smoothie in the right way. Here's a really simple recipe if you want one that's nutrient dense and covers all your bases. So, one, you fill the blender with spinach or kale, you choose, and then smush it down. So, fill it up to the top with spinach, then smush it down. Two, add a whole banana and then as many fresh or frozen berries as you'd like. And then three, add enough Fairlife milk or some nut milk to allow it to blend. Just enough to allow it to blend. You'll know you did this right because the smoothie will come out green, unless you had blueberries or blackberries in it. 8, optional. If you find that you're getting hungry between meals when you're having the smoothie, you can also have a very small handful of nuts while you drink this, and the nuts will help to extend the satiety between meals. So, say you're going to go out to eat, or say you want to simplify your diet to lose weight, just have this smoothie as your meal replacement. There's another dietary change that both increases your metabolism while also creating a natural limiting factor to the amount you can eat. That's to add more spice to your diet. This could mean jalapenos, hot sauces, or any other spice that kicks it up a notch. Just choose options with the fewest ingredients that don't have sugar added to them. Go as spicy as you can tolerate. If the hot stuff sets off acid reflux, another option is adding in black pepper and turmeric together to the diet by sprinkling it on top of food. This is another one that will also limit the amount of food you can consume and has been shown to consistently aid in losing that extra body fat. There's no set amount that you can have, but I recommend putting it on top of your food, just making sure that you don't add so much turmeric and black pepper together that you're eating mouthfuls of powder. Try a little at a time and increase it with each meal until you find that sweet spot for where it doesn't ruin the taste. But it's not just food that's the downfall of diets, it's also alcoholic drinks that come out at social events. While alcohol is in your system, your body will be using its metabolic resources to get it out of your body. This also means the foods you eat while drinking will have a different hormonal reaction due to alcohols, alcohol. While alcohol is in your system, your body will use its metabolic resources to get it out of your body. This also means that the foods you're eating while you're drinking will have a different hormonal reaction due to the alcohol's depressant effect. Think the opposite of caffeine. When drinking alcohol, it's best to think about minimizing damage versus trying to make a quote unquote healthy choice. Alcohol is a toxin and only amplified its negative effects when it's combined with mixers. These mixed drinks are typically just high amounts of processed sugar to reduce the sharp taste of alcohol. The recommendation here is to switch to hard liquor and go for shots that have the highest alcohol content possible instead of like those sweetened drinks or wine. Red wine is not going to make you healthier. All those researching studies have already been debunked, so please don't put red wine in your diet thinking it's going to make you healthier. Also, side note, just for the people that are listening to the audio version of this, it's really the social events that are with alcohol that add the biggest benefit. So just being social will do more for your heart health than having any amount of alcohol. So go to parties, have fun. You don't need alcohol for it. Back to the book. There are other options too. Drinks that are mostly water, like hard seltzers, like White Claw, for example, can be a better option. But the less you have mixed drinks with alcohol, the better. Even if you are quite the social butterfly, just choosing one of these changes from this chapter can help make a difference in the scale while letting you live your life. There are additional techniques, though, that you can use if you want to have the scale trend in the right direction even faster and boost your fat loss results. Fat loss boosters. As appealing as boosting fat loss is, I want to remind you that the goal is to find the minimum effective dose. This is important for speeding up fat loss specifically. Otherwise, you run the risk of overtraining, which leads you to feeling exhausted all the time. So, when choosing the activities to boost your fat loss, please choose one at a time. High intensity interval training HIIT has been shown to burn the highest number of fat calories in the shortest period of time. The caveat to this is that it's also one of the hardest kind of trainings that you can do. So I recommend starting with 20 to 30 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week to prevent your metabolism from getting so high that you're just starving all the time. If you don't want to work out that hard, another option is just to double up on how often you're exercising. This could be doing your weight training in the morning and then going for a walk in the evening, or you could go for a walk in the morning and then a walk again in the evening. This works most effectively if you split it up and not all at once, because you're basically going to use your energy levels to do one workout, recover, have more energy for the following workout. That way you actually get a better metabolic burn. If walking is all you can get in, focus on increasing your step count, and that could be the only thing you need to have the body fat melt off your body. Whatever your average daily step count is right now, just increase it by 1,000 steps a day until the weight starts to come down. Sometimes walking is weather dependent because it gets cold out. But getting cold can actually be used to increase your resting metabolic rate. Consistent exposure to cold has been shown to increase brown fat in our bodies. This is a thinner form of fat that acts like a metabolic furnace that also helps with insulin sensitivity and keeps our blood sugar levels in check while keeping our bodies warmer. If you choose this option, you want to get cold enough to shiver daily. If it's cold outside, you can do this by going outside, but just make sure that your head, hands, and feet are covered at all times. Side note, cold exposure has an added bonus of being a phenomenal antidepressant. Various cultures have been using this to boost mental health for thousands of years. This one took a long time for research to catch up as well, but cold exposure has had reports a similar dopaminergic release as cocaine. But instead of getting all those feel good hormones released in like a split second, like a drug would do, it's a slow release that happens through a 24-hour period. Cold exposure has personally been a key part of me getting out and staying out of depressions. Your psychology can make all the difference when it comes to losing weight. A great way to identify how foods affect you as well as keep you conscious of your choices is to weigh in multiple times a day, ideally before and after each meal. The reason for this is that it effectively helps you identify which foods for you cause you to gain a significant amount of weight. If your weight only increases by a few pounds every single time you eat and it doesn't fluctuate at all during the day, there are likely inflammatory issues at play. It also helps to bring more consciousness to the decisions throughout the day because you know a weigh-in is just around the corner. That additional data can further assist you in making your future decisions. You've probably heard the phrase, failure to plan is a plan to fail. One of the most effective tactics I've ever seen is called planning tomorrow today, PTT, in which you journal about your day's actions and decisions. When you plan tomorrow today, you analyze the day you've just had. You can make rapid adjustments and use your intelligence to test different ways that you can improve the following day. That could be for your sleep, stress, diet, exercise, or anything else that happened in life. But you keep a higher sense of control because you're planning your 1% improvements for the next day. The best way to do this is to plan something I call your habit loop trigger. A habit loop trigger is anything that you see, hear, or can sense that instinctively triggers another habit. Now, think about a bad habit you have. What happens right before that self-sabotaging behavior? If you're driving past your favorite fast food place and that has you unconsciously pulling into the drive-thru, then the solution could be as easy as taking a different route home. By planning tomorrow today, you can actually plan this into your day. Outside of aiding in weight loss, journaling has a multitude of benefits on your mental health, of which we will discuss in part 3, psychological training, no willpower needed. Before we get there, your mental well-being isn't possible without better hormonal functioning. So let's make hormonal balance easier to achieve. Part 2, balancing hormones, made easy. Hormonal balance 101. Your hormonal system determines nearly every aspect of your life. How much energy you have, how fast you lose weight, hunger levels, sleep quality, digestive health, and even how you feel when you see yourself in the mirror. You simply cannot ignore hormonal balance when trying to achieve your physical and mental health goals. Hormonal disruption for women is unavoidable, with a monthly cycle that literally has their body changing its chemistry depending on the week. But that doesn't mean you need to start getting blood work done and address every individual hormone in isolation. You should get excited because this doesn't have to be hard. It's easy when you know what to do. The most simplistic way to explain hormones is that they are released based on what the body predicts will happen next. Think Pavlov's dog. Ring a bell? If you stand out on a busy highway, your hormonal system will expect you're going to get hit by a car. So it's going to release energy-boosting hormones like adrenaline and norepinephrine to get you out of there. Or if you have a stressful day, that stress leads to the release of hormones like cortisol. And excess cortisol has been shown to be both anabolic to fat and catabolic to muscle. That means that when you're not properly metabolizing stress hormones, you're gaining fat and losing muscle at the exact same time. After hearing how detrimental excess cortisol can be, you'd think the goal would be to eliminate it, but that's not what we want either. Cortisol isn't only for stressful situations. The energy boost it provides gets you moving in the morning as well. The goal here is to set up the precursors that will help create predictability for your hormonal system. We don't want to get lost in the weeds trying to do everything because the perfect strategy differs from person to person. Quick disclaimer: if you are going through hormone replacement therapy, HRT, or are being prescribed something that affects your hormones, you can still follow all the exact same steps to further improve your hormonal balance in the chapters ahead. Clients following this protocol drastically improved or reversed leaky gut, PCOS symptoms ease, PMS gets better, excessive or non existent hunger gets fixed, low energy levels go away, their hot flashes disappeared, weight starts melting off, etc. Ready to get started with the top contributing factor to hormonal balance? Catch some Z's. Everyone knows we need sleep. Even people with severe insomnia have to fall asleep eventually. High quality sleep is the top contributing factor to improved hormonal balance. But getting the recommended 7 to 9 hours of uninterrupted sleep is not always possible. I'd rather you take an approach that's 100% in your control, and that's to focus on sleep quality instead of sleep quantity. If you feel like you need to peel yourself out of bed or want to snooze your alarm for 5 more minutes of terrible quality sleep, then you know this should be your focus. The most impactful thing you could do for your sleep is to create a routine for the precursors of high quality sleep. This is done with proper planning given your life's constraint. Even if you aren't going to bed and waking up at the exact same time, creating as much predictability as possible is still the goal. The top 4 precursors for better sleep are a bedtime routine, closing doors, the strategic use of stimulants, that fight or flight response, getting sunlight at the right times, and looking forward to tomorrow. Start with something I call closing doors. This is the concept of a scheduled nightly routine that aids in high quality sleep. Imagine there's a hallway with a series of doors like you'd see in a hotel. All of these doors are open and there's a bright light coming out of each of them. You need to go down the hall and close each one of these doors one by one, progressively making it darker and darker until you reach the final room where you can close the door and go to sleep with the lights out. These doors represent an aspect of your bedtime routine. With each door you close, your hormonal system is predicting that sleep is getting closer and closer, so it progressively releases more of the hormones that aid in high quality sleep where you fall asleep deeply. When doing the strategy, you need to do the same things in the same order every single day. Ideally 5 or more things because that allows more time for those sleep hormones to build up before your head hits the pillow. So even if your bedtime routine is letting the dogs outside, then checking that the house is all locked up once they're back in, then writing down one thing you've accomplished that day, brushing your teeth, and turning off all the lights, that works. The key is to pick something that you can do most days with the highest degree of consistency. And just like your bedtime routine, you want to create regularity with stimulants as well. That means that if you wake up Monday through Friday with a cup of coffee, then on weekends, try to get up around the same time with a stimulant because your body is expecting that boost of energy. It doesn't necessarily need to be coffee either. It could be a workout, listening to an intense murder mystery, or any other mental stimulation as discussed in The Hunger Switch. Your body is either going to increase or decrease the amount of energy hormones it releases depending on when it expects you need it. This could lead to you randomly feeling exhausted or suddenly stimulated with jolts of energy when you don't need it. My fellow night owls know that random burst of energy that only strikes at midnight. This is happening because your body never had a predictable place for that energy. By not creating predictability for stimuli on a daily basis, you start to create a weekend jet lag effect that makes getting up on Monday feel like you're getting out of a 500-pound weighted blanket. You cannot catch up on sleep on the weekend. Try to create a bedtime and wake up routine that's as consistent as possible. In fact, a good rule of thumb to know if you're actually getting adequate quality sleep is that you wake up and feel ready to start the day. And the best way to start the day is with the sunrise hitting your eyes. This creates a 16-hour internal countdown that naturally releases the hormones that aid in getting tired at bedtime. Even if the morning looks dark, gloomy, and totally overcast, there's still sunshine getting through the clouds, albeit a lot less. But even that is going to be enough to help start that internal clock to boost your energy levels during the day and make you tired at night. If getting sunlight when you first wake up just isn't possible, you can create an artificial sunrise with light box therapy or happy lamps. You can order these lamps online. The goal is 10,000 lux for 30 seconds at least, and that seems to do the trick. The sunset is also a hormonal trigger. Avoid overhead lighting 2 hours or more before bed if possible. Because our brains recognize the sunset as a signal that sleep will be happening soon, seeing artificial light physically lower on the horizon triggers the body to start winding down. So, turning off overhead lights specifically and using lamps that are lower is a good way to start this artificial sunset. The color of that light can also make a difference. In those last 2 hours before bed, if your lamps are tinted yellow or orange, the warmer colors you'd see at sunset, they're actually going to further help with this sleep quality. The colors you're looking to eliminate specifically are white and blue light. Most electronics now have like a night light or like a night mode that filters these colors. Feel free to use your electronics all the way up till you go to sleep if you need to. Just make sure that this filter is on so you don't mess up your sleep quality. When you're using your electronic devices at night, you also don't want to be reading about like how the world is ending or start engaging in some drama online or anything else that puts you in the wrong state of mind before bed. This is actually one of the big reasons why they say electronics are so damaging for our sleep quality is not just the blue light, because you could just put a filter on for that. It's the stimulation of our mind into this negativity and kind of keeps us up. If you've dealt with or are currently dealing with poor mental health, you know that stress can either cause you to sleep all the time or keep you up all night. One of the best sleep aids is to never go to bed without something you can look forward to tomorrow. If you don't have a future to look forward to, then today feels hard, and your sleep can suffer because all you want to do is stay awake to escape just a little longer. Our lives are made up of mundane daily experiences, and this makes it absolutely vital to have something you can look forward to. Not something to do on a vacation from our lives, but something to add to our lives. It could be something really simple or something bigger. It doesn't matter if it's watching a TV show you like, giving your dog a hug, or training to run a mile for the first time in years. Think about how a kid gets up on Christmas Day. Even if they only had 2 hours of sleep the night before, they'll launch out of bed and they look forward to what's ahead. It doesn't need to feel like Christmas every day, but some external motivator to get up and get moving makes getting out of bed a whole lot easier and can drastically improve your sleep quality. Even if you're short on time and you want the minimum effective dose to high quality sleep, then go outside for a walk in the morning. You'll get the sunlight, you'll get a natural stimulant. It gives you something to look forward to, and as a bonus, it'll help burn body fat. Now, if you want to speed up weight loss even more and improve hormonal balance at the same time, then I'd recommend following some guidelines. You want tomorrow to be a reward for what you did today, not a punishment you have to get through. Anyone that's eaten too much fast food can attest to the negative hormonal cascade and emotional black hole it creates. So, do you want to know what you can eat to feel amazing? Hormonally healthy eating. It's not only what you eat, but how you eat, when you eat, how much you eat, and how often you eat. Let's start with possibly the strangest finding when it comes to women's hormonal health, and it completely goes against conventional wisdom. The greatest discovery for you to effectively reach your hormonal balance could be, wait for it, dark chocolate. Some women are programmed to like chocolate a lot. They have more feel good receptors in their brains that, when giving cacao in chocolate, will help with energy levels, it'll improve their mood, and even helps to balance their hormonal system. If that sounds like you, there are some considerations. It has to be dark chocolate, 70% cacao and up, with minimal amounts of caffeine. Also, have it planned into your diet for no more than once a week. How much chocolate depends on the person, of course, but a rule of thumb is that you want 90% of your plate to look like it comes from nature. Chocolate is added to the end of a meal. It is not the meal. The negative effects of processed foods are directly proportional to the amount you eat, just like the positive effects of eating good foods that look like they come from nature are amplified the more healthy foods you eat. And just as a side note, this is also why when people go from like a meat eating diet to like vegetarian, they get healthier. It's not because they're cutting out meats. It's because they're cutting out processed foods and they're eating more food that looks like it comes from nature. You would likely be a lot healthier if you kept high quality meats in your diet and ate a lot of fruits and vegetables. So, all right, back to the book. The only way I found to reliably mess up your hormonal balance is to use any over the counter products that claim a detox or a cleanse. These are both marketing gimmicks and have zero validated research to back them up. At best, those methods will hurt your bank account. At worst, they purge your gut of the trillions of healthy microbes your body has spent decades acquiring and will lead to poor mental health. Your liver, kidneys, and lungs do all the detoxing you need and at zero cost. And just another side note for this, for you audio listeners here, you get another bonus. You can't drink more water to detox faster. That's also not a thing. So if you want to detox, just let your liver, kidneys, and lungs do all the work. They'll do it. Just eat more food that looks like it comes from nature. You'll naturally detox. You don't have to do anything in addition to that. Having your water with a piece of lemon in it isn't going to help you detox faster. It doesn't make any sense. Having additional water does nothing. Sweating does nothing for detoxing. That's just having you do bonus things for no reason other than maybe it makes you feel like you're doing better and you get a great placebo effect. All right, back to the book. That means hormonal health can improve by simply following a diet that covers all your bases. So I've broken down the guidelines to make it as easy as possible to follow. So for every meal, 4 to 16 ounces of water before meals, 1 to 2 servings of vegetables, fruits, or a combination, 2 fruit servings per day, ideally. 1 serving of healthy fats, that's like from avocado, olive oil, coconut oil, nuts. Ghee, technically, it's also not something that looks like it comes from nature, but it'll help. 1 serving of protein. This could be from fish, poultry, eggs, legumes, beans. It could be from quinoa. Daily, you want to have 6 to 8 servings of vegetables, 2 servings of whole fruits. That means you eat the skin too. Remember, we're always going for whole fruits anytime we eat fruits. 1 to 2 servings of high fiber carbs. That's like quinoa, brown rice, like I talked about before. And then 1 serving of minimally processed nuts and seeds weekly. 30 to 100 grams, aka a spoonful, of fermented foods such as kimchi or sauerkraut. Having more also aids in weight loss, as discussed in the 4,000-year-old secret. Important note, wide variety of foods means colors, textures, fresh, frozen, canned, etc. Trying 1 new food a week makes this easy. If you want dark chocolate, make sure you add it in once a week. Serving recommendation as it says on the package, and it has to be 70% cacao or more, and it's eaten immediately after a meal. There are also dietary changes you can make if your top priority is preventing cancer and not just overall hormonal health. So this is specifically for people that are more health conscious. So daily, 20 to 30 grams of complete protein source in the morning. That's like eggs, quinoa, steak. Bean chili with spinach. The spicier, the better. Any beans are good. Strawberries, blueberries, and peaches. Remember to eat the whole fruit, skin included. 1 to 2 servings is plenty. Nuts and seeds, once again, 1 to 2 servings is plenty. Ground flaxseed. Side note, this is also helpful for people that have PCOS. Broccoli sprouts, the more the better. These can easily be made at home and only require broccoli seeds, a jar, and water. Kits are available online. You actually don't even need to put this in sunlight. It's like super easy. And if you have kids, they freaking love doing this. What you want to do is focus on vegetable intake versus animal products in general when you're trying to have an anti-cancer type of diet. Vegetables offer much less energy for our bodies to use. Less energy means less energy for cancer growth as well. Weekly, fish that are high in omega-3, 2 to 3 times a week. The thing that I want to note though, is that the goal is improvement, not perfection. So even if you don't check all the boxes on here, it doesn't matter. Don't beat yourself up. Or conversely, you can feel like you're doing everything right, but your energy levels are still garbage, and you feel like you're not in the right place hormonally. This is often the case when you experience adrenal fatigue. Adrenal fatigue fix. Adrenal fatigue has become a catch-all buzzword for decision fatigue, neurological fatigue, and generally low levels of energy versus actually low-functioning adrenals. I want you to think about your adrenals in this instance like they're sponges that squeeze out the energy needed for you to take action on something. But with adrenal fatigue, the sponges are all squeezed out. Even if you have caffeine, it does nothing. And you can literally have a cup of coffee and fall asleep moments later because there's nothing left to squeeze out. Without addressing adrenal fatigue, you don't properly metabolize cortisol, and it makes reaching a healthy weight nearly impossible. Not to mention, you just don't feel like doing things. The causes for adrenal fatigue are not sleeping enough, sleeping too much, not getting sunlight, not falling into REM sleep or rapid eye movement sleep, having substances like alcohol or marijuana right before bed, shift work where your schedule is on a rotation, or you're just making too many important decisions on a daily basis. The most common cause for these low levels of energy is seasonal affective disorder, also known as SAD, because if you don't get sunshine during the day, You don't have the proper hormonal function as discussed in Catch Some Z's. If you sleep but aren't getting REM sleep, you won't have the same restorative effect your body needs to maintain energy levels throughout the day either. When you have alcohol or marijuana right before bed, it's impossible to fall into REM sleep until enough of that has been metabolized out of your system. That's one of the reasons why you can pass out from drinking, but wake up and feel like you didn't sleep at all. And it's not just drugs that can mess up our hormonal system like that. When we eat anything, our bodies release insulin. That insulin helps to trigger the rest and digest effect, as we talked about earlier, and that makes us sleepy. The more you eat, the more insulin is released at once. I call it triggering the Thanksgiving effect. Think about the last time you ate a big Thanksgiving meal. It's not the tryptophan in the turkey that makes you tired. It's eating a bunch of food in one sitting. This effect is stronger with high glycemic foods. These foods cause a sharp increase in blood sugar and then quickly spike your insulin, as discussed in water, fruits, and vegetables. Oh my! That spike is what causes crazy energy dips during the day, where you feel fine one minute and then the next you're hit with uncontrollable exhaustion rather than a gradual fatigue. Other times, it's not the diet causing these energy dips, it's just plain overwhelm. When it comes to feeling overwhelmed, your body's natural hormonal response to help deal with it is to make you sleep to recover. It's counterintuitive, but even if you get too much sleep, the best way to get back into balance is typically a nap. Ever had so much to do that you just want to watch Netflix and take a nap? As funny as that sounds, this Netflix and nap approach is our body trying to force us to recover from adrenal fatigue. And that nap doesn't have to be an hour. 15, 10, even 7 minutes is as good, if not better, than a cup of coffee. Napping can be even more effective if you do it right after each meal. This method is an easy way you can utilize that Thanksgiving effect to fall asleep faster with deeper restorative sleep. That means one of the reasons you're getting tired randomly might actually be fixed by just listening to your body after meals and taking a nap. To use that Thanksgiving effect for maximum benefit, you want your biggest meal to be the one right before you go to bed. The closer to when you sleep, the better. Disclaimer: if you have acid reflux or gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD, this will almost definitely trigger it and make things worse. Eating a big meal and then laying flat might have you burping up dinner. So make the big meal 2 hours or more before bed if that's the case. Also, eating right before bed can cause you to gain weight because your metabolism is slowest at the end of the day. If you're already waking up feeling ready to start the day, do not use this method. We don't want to try to fix a problem that doesn't exist. That being said, if you aren't getting high quality sleep and your energy levels are generally low during the day, then your metabolism and every other hormonal function is already very far off. So it is definitely worth trying because it'll further aid in your weight loss efforts. Other than sleep, you can reduce your adrenal fatigue by making an overarching decision once and committing 100%. There is a massive difference between 100% and anything under 100% when it comes to decisions for your mental energy levels. Let's say you decide that most of the time you're going to drink water before your meals because you want all the benefits of dropping more body fat, improved mental health, and regulating your blood sugar levels. Even if 99 out of 100 times you choose water, the fact you need to pause and use your brain to decide whether or not you're going to make this decision is going to weigh on you. Needing to ask yourself, will I drink water before I eat this, is not a decision that needs to be made over and over. Neither do most important decisions in life. This holds true if you're deciding whether or not to quit your job, stay in a relationship, what foods you're going to eat today, or anything else. It just takes one day of feeling burnt out to throw your healthy choices out the window and completely self-sabotage yourself. There's only so much mental energy you have in a day, so use your resources appropriately. For big decisions, I recommend using Tim Ferriss's fear setting technique so you can feel logically and emotionally good about your choice. Let's say you're trying to decide whether or not you're going to stay in a toxic relationship. You'll create 3 columns. Column 1, what is the worst case scenario? Column 2, what can I do to prevent this worst case scenario from happening? Or how do I get back to where I was originally? Column 3, what is the best case scenario? This one needs to be in as much detail as possible. Let's walk through those. 1, what is the worst case scenario? What are all the truly horrible things that can happen if you stay in this relationship? What can happen to your mental health? What can happen to your kids, your family, your friends? Is there a chance you can die? I want you to list out every possible fear about staying in or getting out of this relationship. What are all those possible fears that you have? 2, what can I do to prevent these worst case scenarios from happening, or how do I get back to where I was originally? Are there people or support groups that can help? Is there a way that you can hedge your bets so you can undo it? Is it possible to create a clean break that gives you the ability to get back into the relationship without too much issue? How can you mitigate the damage? Column 3. What is the best case scenario? This needs to be in as much detail as possible. What kind of life can you have? How will you feel emotionally? What will this do to your self worth and self esteem if you take control of your life? How proud will your loved ones be if they see you do this for yourself? If you make this decision now, then how much better off will you be 10 years from now? What kind of healthy relationships does this leave room for? How would this improve your confidence? By doing this fear setting technique, you can use your logical brain to make all the emotionally charged decisions without having to mentally stress out about it. Once you make the decision, you have a contingency plan either way, so you can sleep easier knowing that all your bases are covered. But being able to sleep easily might not even be a problem for you, but maybe your energy levels are still not where you want them to be. If you're able to fall asleep quickly, despite having lots of caffeine throughout the day, then it's probably time to change that as well. The goal will be to gradually wean you off of high amounts of caffeine to boost energy. As contradictory as that sounds, I just told you that I'm going to help you boost energy by lowering caffeine. But this will help to reset your sensitivity so that caffeine will once again work to boost your energy over a prolonged period of time. I'm not saying to go off caffeine completely cold turkey because that will likely give you horrible headaches. Instead, I want you to reduce the amount of caffeine you do have to under 100 milligrams a day and not to consume any within 8 or more hours before bed. This helps to ensure that the majority of it is metabolized out of your system before sleeping. If you're more tired during the day, you'll fall asleep quicker and your body will recover much faster. You want to replace this artificial boost of energy from caffeine with one that doesn't make adrenal fatigue worse. Eventually, you'll find your dependency on caffeine will naturally decline, replaced by high quality sleep. Let's not have you walking around like a zombie though, because you don't have the energy kick like you used to have. And instead, let's implement natural energy boosters. Natural energy boosters. Being able to control or boost energy on demand makes you feel like the Energizer Bunny. There are things in life that naturally give us energy, and many of these could be used to your advantage without ever touching caffeine. If you've ever got out of the shower and felt a cool breeze, you know the boost of energy I'm talking about. That energy was already inside of you, waiting for something to unlock it. You don't need to sit in an ice bath for a cold to be used for a prolonged energy boost either. Start with a normal shower, switch to cold for the last 30 seconds or so, rinse yourself long enough so that every inch of your body from the neck down is hit by the icy water. The longer you're in the cold, the better. Once you've managed to tolerate 30 seconds, try a minute, then 2. Ideally, your entire shower is cold. As miserable as it sounds, the benefits to your energy are enormous. Bonus points if you feel like it really sucks and you do it anyway, because it's a phenomenal antidepressant. Covered more in part 3. Jumping into a cold shower, as effective as it may be, might not be your cup of tea. Just plain jumping might do the trick too. On top of naturally increasing energy levels, moving and exercising first thing in the morning has been proven to give you a 12-hour mood boost that will carry you throughout the day. You'll feel a sense of accomplishment right off the bat. The best exercises that boost energy are the ones that can be done without reaching total fatigue. Leave some energy in the tank and never take your workouts to total exhaustion. If you're already exhausted, then it probably won't require a lot more effort to get tired from exercise. Instead, play your workout duration and intensity by ear. If you are working out and it makes you exhausted, then it's mission accomplished. No reason to keep pushing past exhaustion with a vigorous workout. Whichever activity you choose, keep in mind the bare minimum activity goal is 4,000 steps a day. 3 or more days of those weeks with higher intensity, more traditional types of workouts. That's not an average of 4,000 steps a day, but your minimum target if you want a chance at balancing your hormonal system. Once again, remember, it's important to aim for the minimum effective dose when setting your hormonal balance goals because it requires the least amount of effort to accomplish. So 4,000 steps a day on a midday walk might be the only thing that you need to do. The other activities that work phenomenally are actually hopping up and down, best done on a trampoline, clapping your hands, and yelling, although doing this in public might turn a few heads. The top activities to do are the ones that also relieve stress in the muscle, like foam rolling, stretching, and dancing, with dancing actually being one of the best ones. The harder you dance, the better. As an aside, exercise in general is a great way to physically metabolize stress because you're using that fight or flight stimulation to your advantage. It's most ideal if you can get in an activity before lunchtime because our stress hormones are the highest when we first wake up. But keep in mind, we don't live in an ideal world. Do it when you can or when you feel is best for you and what works best for your life. When your environment doesn't allow for activity, there are other options to get the blood pumping, such as strategic salt intake. Too much salt is bad for your health because it'll lead to extended high blood pressure, which can lead to further complications like heart disease and stroke. But strategic use will temporarily boost your heart rate and can be used to your advantage. Before I get in to do this, I want to reiterate that if your healthcare professional advised you against taking salt because it might kill you, then obviously don't do this. But for everyone else, this is an easy, strategic way to boost energy levels without lasting negative ramifications. The best time to put more salt in your diet is 20 minutes before you need the energy. Broth heated up is a really easy way to do this. Just pop it in the microwave 30 seconds like you would for a cup of coffee. Once again, my personal favorite is a brand called Zoop Bone Broth because it's already made, but feel free to make up your own to amplify the health benefits. The best choice to make is the one that will be the easiest to do consistently. That's why this next energy booster personally helped me cut my caffeine intake in half while maintaining the same energy levels. This method I got from an extraordinary man from the name of Wim Hof, also known as the Iceman, because of his ability to comfortably stay in sub zero temperatures. But he can also consciously trigger his endocrine system to fight disease and turn his autonomic system on to increase energy levels on command. His core philosophies are around discipline, exposure to cold, and breathing techniques that he consistently and successfully teaches to others. For energy, it's this specific breathing technique. Do not do this anywhere where you're not comfortable fainting, because if done incorrectly, there's a chance of blacking out from oxygen deprivation. So never do this in the shower or while driving, etc. Start by hyperventilating. Breathe in and out through shallow breaths through pursed lips quickly for a maximum of 5 seconds. Pursed lips is like you're blowing someone a kiss. So what you do is you exhale a normal breath. So after you've hyperventilated for about 5 seconds, and you hold it until you need a gasp for air. So I'll just demonstrate it since you're listening to the audio what it sounds like. It's like and then you hold it. And then you have to gasp for air, and when you do that, you get this boost of energy. It's like a lightning bolt because your fight or flight will be triggered. You can do this as often as you want in a safe place with no negative effects on your neurological system. This one I've actually seen most often used by shift workers like nurses highly effectively who are on rotating schedules and can't just keep having caffeine because the caffeine just doesn't work anymore. But they can do this technique and they can replace the caffeine and actually get higher quality sleep because of it. You could make a game out of this and see how long you're able to hold your breath, but I'd rather you don't pass out. Video games, on the other hand, are an effective way to get energy levels up until bedtime if you're having a hard time staying awake during the day. If you were to play a game that either gives you the feeling you're going to die or has a time limit, it can dramatically increase energy levels naturally. You can gamify just about anything you do by making it time bound. This will give you the energy bump as long as you feel there are consequences to running out of time. This could be competing with someone else or even racing against your own previous times, like finishing a puzzle in a certain time or painting something in under 10 minutes. Doesn't really matter what it is, as long as there is something that you are doing to compete against someone else. For naturally competitive people, this one is super effective because you really want to win. Becoming a winner in all aspects of life comes from having the right plan, self-worth, and mindset. Even if you are eating right, getting your hormones balanced, you won't reach your desired results if you keep sabotaging yourself. That's where having the right psychological training comes in. Part 3, Psychological Training. No willpower needed. Psychology for success. You are intelligent, so the problem isn't just learning what to do, it's consistency. Bar none, the best way to become highly consistent is to remove willpower from the equation. To do that, you have to change your mindset around what does and does not require willpower. Because if every change you make does not require willpower, then you'll be able to maintain that change even on your worst day. If you can maintain all these changes in your life while going through an emotional tailspin or in a stressful situation, then you've unlocked the key to long-term success. This is done by reframing the past, coping with current psychological hurdles, and implementing a plan for a better future that's guaranteed to succeed. After implementing these changes, you'll be able to prevent self sabotage, be in complete control of your life, feel confident in your own skin, wake up excited, and become the best version of yourself. It's time to do some mental training to become strong enough to handle whatever life throws your way. Thriving or surviving. When someone is experiencing anxiety disorders, depression, post traumatic stress, or even just that unexplainable feeling of always being on edge, it can be truly debilitating. After finding solutions to overcome my past trauma and helping thousands of others do the same, I want to say that I strongly believe that mental health issues like anxiety are not something that you get over. The solution is to find healthy coping mechanisms that allow you to thrive in life despite whatever mental health you have today. To do that, we will begin with the best way to catch a monkey. In 1812, explorers found the easiest way to catch a monkey was by using a jar with a small opening at the top, a rope, and a banana. Using the rope, they would tie the jar to a tree. They would then walk past monkeys, revealing a banana. Monkeys freaking love bananas. They're delicious and make them feel amazing, so just seeing the banana was enough to get the monkey's undivided attention. The monkey here is smart enough to know that people are capturing other monkeys, though, so it wouldn't get close, just observe from a distance. The explorers would then take that banana and place it into the small opening at the top of the jar and walk away. After the explorers are a good distance away, the monkey would sprint to the jar, eager to grab its favorite food. The monkey's tiny arm would barely fit into the top of the jar, and it could barely reach the banana, but once it did, it could grab it, and its fist plus the banana was too big to pull out of the jar. The explorers could hear this monkey frantically trying to get its hand out of the jar, screeching, jumping around, not knowing why it's stuck. While this monkey was doing backflips trying to get out of the situation, the explorers just calmly walked back over and would easily capture it. Every other time in this monkey's life, getting a banana is what kept it alive and happy. But this time, it's what's keeping them trapped and unable to break free. The banana is an analogy for your survival coping mechanisms. The survival coping mechanisms that you've used to this point got you here and kept you alive, so you should be thankful. It might have been binge eating, lying to others about your diet, keeping your deep depression a secret, or any other self sabotaging behavior. Holding onto your banana, your survival coping mechanisms, is also what's preventing you from living your best life. Our mind's top priority is to keep us alive, not to keep us happy. So we will unlock the key to lasting happiness in the following chapters by learning healthy coping mechanisms to overcome anxiety, PTSD, alarm, and depression. Ready to let go of your banana for better mental health? Overcoming anxiety, PTSD, and alarm. There's no permanent cure to anxiety. The goal should be the implementation of healthy coping strategies that keep the fear of the future in check so it doesn't stop you from living a better life. For anxiety, separate your thoughts and feelings because only one of these is in your control. Anxiety is the obsessive thinking because you're uncertain about the future. Alarm is the worrisome feeling we attribute to those obsessive thoughts. The cure to anxiety and alarm, then, is to reverse these intrusive thoughts. Create certainty about a better future. The feeling of alarm comes from either past events, background alarm, or from current life stressors, foreground alarm. If you recently crashed your car, then the next time you drive it, you'd likely feel uneasy because of that past event. This would be a background alarm. If someone nearby starts driving frantically, honking their horn and weaving around you while you're driving, that would cause foreground alarm. It's that scary feeling from something currently happening in your life. Your anxious mind believes the best way to overcome these feelings of alarm is to create certainty with the situation by obsessively trying to outthink this thinking problem. For background alarm, that's impossible. The only thing it accomplishes is trying to think through every possible detail of some hypothetical future, and not just every detail about that single scenario, but every detail about all possible scenarios. And because human nature often defaults to the negative, you'll always imagine the worst possible outcomes. Nobody's default thinking is best case scenario. No, instead it's, what if insert this horrible detailed thing happens? Being intelligent makes this so much worse because you start throwing in very real, logical reasoning behind why a negative event can happen. On top of that, that feeling of alarm can be triggered by anything, and I mean anything, from a gentle breeze to seeing yourself being successful. Any seemingly normal thing can be a trigger for that frightened feeling of alarm. When it comes to foreground alarm, since it's happening in the moment, you know what's triggering it. But for the background alarm, the feeling doesn't seem to make any sense. There will be moments throughout your life where you don't know why you have a sudden feeling of alarm or what is triggering that feeling exactly. But it's sudden and it can be potentially crippling. This could be as extreme as anxiety attacks or as mild as an increase in your heartbeat. A therapist might be helpful here to help uncover the source of past trauma. Constantly bringing up past trauma over and over can help numb the pain from those events through exposure therapy. But unless these events stop you from living your everyday life, then your time, energy, and effort is likely better spent on actually doing something to gain control of your future. If your therapist can help you discover the trigger, that can be valuable and helpful information because now you can avoid it or find coping strategies for that specific thing or event. From there, the goal is implementing these strategies to cope with what's in your control, that feeling of alarm. Feeling alarm typically has a physical manifestation. For most people, this feeling is around or just below your chest. It can feel like pressure or a sinking feeling into your gut. This region is also called your solar plexus. When alarm hits, it's like a train that's moving that can't be completely stopped even if you hit the brakes. Nor do you want to, because that would mean that you're stopping your heart from beating. Instead, our goal is to slow it down. For foreground alarm, the solution is to use a technique to calm the nervous system and that gets the feeling to slow down. The best way to deal with this nervous system overdrive is to physically metabolize that fight or flight response with movement. Walking being one of the most time tested ways to help alleviate it. This could be alleviated by actively taking action towards fixing the problem at hand. If you have a work deadline approaching, then finishing that work is the best thing you could do to fix it. However, this won't be a solution for background alarms that come from past childhood trauma. This is because your childhood mind has created and framed the past in a way that makes it reflexively hide from negative feelings. When children experience fight or flight, they don't just feel the urge to escape. They feel the urge to run and escape to their safe place, into the arms of the person that cares about them. If this was not happening in your childhood, or you are someone that keeps your mental health problems a secret, then we need to create that safety first. The most effective technique for childhood trauma is to actually communicate with that younger version of yourself that kept you alive through all the things you've been through. For this technique, give your childhood self a nickname. Ideally, a nickname you actually had when you were a child. For example, my childhood nickname was Brum Brum. Before I talk to Brum Brum, it's important that I focus on the feeling that's alarming me in order to bring down that overactive sympathetic nervous system. If you have your childhood nickname in mind, please follow along. Rub your hands together fast enough to make them feel warmer, then place one hand on top of the other on your chest or where you feel the alarm. This acts to replicate that warm feeling people get from hugs. With that physical feeling of being held, this is how you're going to talk with your previous self. So, as an example, I'm going to do it in the audio version here. So, you're going to hear me rub my hands together. Once they're warm, I place it on my chest and I say, "Thank you, Brum Brum, for getting me through life. And I love that you did that for me. I appreciate that you did that for me. I'll get us through this one. We're safe now." This is expressing genuine gratitude for what your previous self has done to get you here, as well as acknowledging that you're currently safe without them needing to feel afraid. Once you've done this, you can use the shortened version for your everyday feelings of alarm. All you need to do is ask the question, "Am I safe?" And you can trigger an incredible cascade of relaxation instead of that alarm feeling. That's because the answer to "Am I safe?" is always yes. You don't need to be safe a week from now, a day from now, even a minute from now for that statement to be true. In this exact moment, asking, "Am I safe?" and honestly answering yes is the only true response to that question. There is no immediate threat because if there were, you wouldn't have time to be thinking about this. You'd be physically moving to avoid the danger. Instead, in this exact moment, you're safe. You can make this even more powerful if you ask, "Am I safe?" Then breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth slowly before answering yes. This is a form of emotional strength training, not running from your alarm, but building resilience because of it. One of the unhealthiest ways to cope with alarm is never confronting the feeling and only avoiding it. If every time you feel alarm, you try to numb or avoid the pain by escaping through social media, video games, drugs, sex, watching Netflix, you are reinforcing its psychological hold on you. It's time to take control and start building your emotional strength. And you do that by standing up to the feeling and intentionally sitting with it. Even if your anxiety has been diagnosed as obsessive compulsive disorder, the way out is to face it and realize how strong you are. The fact is that all of those thousands of negative thoughts far outnumber the negative things that actually happened in your life. And you're still here. You're here because you're strong enough to be here. If you suffer from anxiety disorders, you have to be mentally stronger than the average person just to function. You're already strong. Use that strength to your advantage. When alarm hits, don't run, don't avoid, rub your hands together and place them on your chest. See how long you can sit with that horrible feeling. Every second you sit with it is another second you are in complete control. And knowing you're in control helps you feel better because it's what the anxious mind craves. This is why to-do lists can seem like a daunting task. That's also why planning your future the right way is so important. Correctly planning tomorrow today, PTT, as we talked about in previous chapters, not only helps with fat loss, as we saw in fat loss boosters, but when done in a specific way, it can help with creating a better future and alleviate some of those anxious feelings. One person can make a to-do list and find it helpful. But if you're suffering from anxiety disorders, then making that to-do list can be never ending and actually add stress to your life. The stress-free list is one that uses this psychological trick. After creating a to-do list, choose 1 to 3 things on that list that, if accomplished, would make you feel like you won the day. Then write down the action you'll take towards that first thing on the list. And not just any action, but make the action so small that it feels silly to think you won't accomplish it. For example, say the first thing on your list is that you'll go for a walk around the block the next day. Write down that you will open the door and turn right to start your trip around the block. The reason this is so effective is that anxiety is a thinking problem that craves certainty to be relieved. By knowing exactly what the first thing is that you'll work on tomorrow, plus putting the action needed to accomplish it actually tricks the brain into feeling like it's already done. Telling your anxious brain that a task is already complete is what makes this work. Side note, this one change is one of the main reasons I was able to cure my own insomnia. It's worth a shot if you suffer from sleep problems as well. Getting your mind in a better place is the first step. Next is preventing others from bringing you down. Dealing with toxic people. If you have a negative or narcissistic person in your life, then this is how you deal with them. Say your sister is a very negative person that always makes comments about your weight and never seems to have anything good to say about you. I would not recommend cutting her off from your life cold turkey or having some bridge burning, drama filled explosion. Instead, create distance and train her not to bring that crap into your life. Creating distance means to increase the distance of physical proximity and time between interactions. If she calls, let it go to voicemail. Listen to the voicemail and decide if you can delay calling her back. If she texts, then leave her on read for as long as possible before responding. And I mean go days or even weeks if you can. Wait until the last possible moment before responding. In person, if she's talking crap, create a pause in the conversation followed by a short response. People are incredibly uncomfortable with silence, and it's a subconscious way of training them to treat you better. If she says, "Why is it taking so long for you to lose weight?" Pause with a blank stare on her face while you look at her like you're watching paint dry. If she tries to ask again or butts in with, "Did you hear me?" just keep the responses short like, "Yeah," or "Hmm." Then, for your actual answer, make it as succinct as possible. Like, I don't know, no fight, no justification, no getting defensive. The key here is an honest answer. Do not start making up lies or stooping to their level, and do not give them full explanations. "I don't know" is much better than "I'm not exactly sure. Could be my sleep is off, or I need to change something about my diet." Why? Because it's training that negative or narcissistic person not to ask those negative questions or make negative comments. People hate being alone, and even toxic people need other people. Narcissistic people not only hate being alone, they hate when they aren't talking about themselves. So, a great way to deal with them is to constantly revert the conversations back to them and their lives after your short response. If they ask, "Why is it taking you so long to lose weight?" When answering this for a narcissistic person, you could say, "I don't know. What do you do when you want to lose weight?" Followed by asking specific questions regarding whatever they say. I can guarantee you that they're more than happy to go on and on about themselves and what makes them so great. Turn the conversation into lengthy questions about them, and they'll likely be excited. If they turn around and ask negative questions or make inappropriate comments about you, then make your responses short, curt, and maybe a little awkward. After a while, they'll learn that those aren't the right conversations to have with you because they aren't getting what they're looking for, a reaction. Distance allows for healing to begin, as long as you're not the toxic person bringing you down. Too smart for your own good. The incredible benefit of being a driven and intelligent woman is that you become a problem solving machine. When people see this, they decide they want to give you their problems to solve as well. This allows you to excel at work, make more money, and will push you to become a better person because you feel like you've never done enough. This is also a downfall in your personal life because not only are you a problem solving machine, you're a problem finding machine. Since you are always looking for problems to solve, you end up with questions that set you on the wrong trajectory in life. Like, why can't I lose weight? Why does this keep happening to me? Or, why can't I stop myself from eating? This puts your mind into looking to solve the wrong questions. These are too ambiguous and do not help you become the woman you want to be. Instead, you could ask questions like, how can I make losing weight so easy I can't fail? How can I improve by 1% compared to my previous self? Or, what can I eat more of that's delicious and closer to nature? These will give you much better, more useful answers. This internal dialogue also creates problems when said out loud to others. This makes you start coming up with why situations, people, and experiences are bad for you. And soon these assumptions create the world you live in. The world you live in is the world you think you live in. Let's say you walk around your block and the neighbor stops you to ask if you know what happened to their garbage can because it's tipped over. Do you think they're asking this question because A, your neighbor suspects you of knocking over the garbage can? B, your neighbor thinks you probably know who did it, but you still haven't told them? Or C, your neighbor is just trying to make small talk? Your answer to this question actually creates the neighbor that is associated with your answer. If you believe negative things about your neighbor, it shows. You'll start to look and sound skeptical during your interactions. If you talk to someone and they always sound skeptical, would you trust that person? So, by interacting with the world in a distrusting way, you're creating a world that doesn't trust you and thus creating a self fulfilling prophecy. If instead you chose to believe something neutral about your neighbor, like they actually are just trying to make small talk, then your interaction would make them trust you a lot more naturally. The fact is, the vast majority of people in this world are good people. If you don't believe that, then you are going to create and surround yourself with an echo chamber of why the world is bad. This doesn't mean everyone's good. This doesn't mean that everyone should be trusted, especially those people acting skeptical. This means that starting with the belief that you're likely interacting with a good person will make good people want to be around you. If you want a better life, you need to be cognizant of the current internal dialogue that you have. When the default is to speak poorly about yourself to yourself, then you end up depressed with self sabotaging behavior. Fortunately, there's a way out. Preventing self sabotage 101. You might be making progress towards your health, career, or relationships, but you consistently manage to sabotage yourself. This doesn't happen out of nowhere, and a solution for continued success already exists. When your subconscious does not feel worthy of feeling good, it tries to bring you back down to the level it feels you deserve. These unhealthy low levels of self worth are likely from something harmful you heard in the past and you still carry with you to this day. Probably along the lines of, don't dress like that, don't eat too much, don't brag or show off, or some other backhanded comment used to bring your life's expectations down. This is what happens with celebrities and people that seem to have everything going for them in life. They end up into drugs or some type of career ending scandal because subconsciously their minds don't believe they deserve all the good that's happening to them for one reason or the other. If you can change this for yourself, not only will you be wildly successful in the short term, but you'll be able to maintain your success for the rest of your life. To create that level of personal, mental, and emotional growth required to maintain success, that means you need to feel like you deserve all the good things in your life. This is referred to by author Gary Cady as your healthy deserve level. This is done by changing your internal dialogue that has likely been formed over years and often decades of repeated statements and labels you put on yourself. This change won't happen overnight, but it's absolutely vital to preventing self sabotage. How you talk about yourself to yourself will determine the quality and quantity of your actions. I need to pause here for a moment before getting into what the change is because, without a doubt, this is the best solution to self sabotage I've found, and you cannot afford to let this go in one ear and out the other. If you follow this one piece of advice, it will single handedly change your outlook on life and create motivation that never ends. Ready? You need to give yourself credit when you accomplish something. As simple as that sounds, I can count on one hand the number of women I've met in my life that aren't their worst critic. If you're solely relying on the approval of others for your self worth, but they aren't acknowledging your accomplishments, then you won't see progress that's being made. Motivation doesn't come out of thin air and then you start making progress. Progress happens and that creates motivation. So if you don't see progress, you lose motivation and self sabotage sets in. To reverse this, you'll need to write down your ideal future, the progress you're making towards it, share that with an empathetic witness, more on this later, decide how you can improve tomorrow, then create forcing functions so you remove willpower. Here's the example. What massive goal would be incredible to accomplish for my physical, mental, and emotional health? That would be your ideal future. Then you answer these two questions on a daily basis. One, what's at least one thing I accomplished today that moves me towards my goal? Two, how can I improve by 1% tomorrow doing something that's so easy I can't fail? There's a reason why you need a massive overarching goal, and it's for your mental health. If the goals are set too small, you won't have the proper dopamine regulation to keep you looking forward to the day ahead. We used to think dopamine was this feel good hormone released after accomplishing something. But being the amazing woman you are, you know firsthand that when you accomplish something, you don't get this prolonged sense of euphoria. It might be a blip of happiness that's followed by an immediate need to find that next mountain to conquer. Dopamine is released in the anticipation of something good. So if you can delay gratification and extend the time between setting and accomplishing a goal, then you get a constant, steady release of this feel-good hormone. Feeling good about the journey you're on while working towards your goals helps you feel happy today. Feeling good about yourself on a daily basis will cause you to lose weight as a byproduct. People that are happy and healthy do not stress eat. When you're speaking to yourself the right way and love the body you're in, you can do incredible things. Strategically journaling accomplishments and planning for your future increases a journal's effectiveness tenfold because you prevent self sabotage. This means you'll need a blueprint for journaling the progress you're making towards your massive goal, how to share that with an empathetic witness, how you can decide your 1% improvement for tomorrow, and which forcing functions you will implement so you don't need willpower. This is how you remove those mental roadblocks stopping you from being successful. Removing mental roadblocks. In order to gain complete control of your future, you need to come from a place of absolute certainty that your goals are attainable. If you don't believe that you can achieve the massive goal you've set for your future self, then you won't take the actions needed to make it a reality. All you need to do is follow the Kaizen method that I've laid out in this book to guarantee success. That means you improve by 1% compared to your previous self on a regular basis. From there, follow the be, do, have principle introduced by L. Ron Hubbard. Be the future self you want to be. Do what that future self would do. Have what that future self has. You can be your future self today, meaning you can embody someone who continuously improves compared to the previous self. From there, you do what that person would do to improve. That means you've set a massive goal, you're reporting your accomplishments to an empathetic witness, and creating forcing functions around those 1% improvements to make it impossible to fail. It's like comparing yourself to who you were a year ago. You're technically the same person, but that was a past you. When you emulate your successful future self's choices now, you know you can't fail. You are your future self, just at a different time in your life. Do those 1% improvements consistently, and you will have what your future self has, which is drastically improved physical, mental, and emotional health. Framing your success with a future focus is the only way to overcome obstacles you've faced in the past. Picture you are 10 years older than you are today, and you've reached the massive, life changing goal that you've set for yourself. Your future self has lost the weight, feels sexy, and has never been better in every aspect of life. If we talk to your future self 10 years from now, do you think they would complain it took you 6 months to reach your goal? What if it took 2 years to reach your massive goal? 5 years? You literally get everything you've ever wanted physically, mentally, and emotionally, plus you keep it for the rest of your life. There is no chance your future self would complain it took too long. Complaining about time it takes to reach a life changing goal can only happen if you're comparing yourself to an ideal. This is why you feel like you're not enough. This is why you feel guilty when you're not perfect with your diet or start self sabotaging your success. That ideal version of you does not exist and will never exist. Getting upset that you're not this perfect imaginary person is like being upset that you can't breathe the air in space. Both are impossible. You don't need to be perfect to reach your goals. You just need to be 1% better than who you were before. How would you talk to someone you love if you knew they were on the right track but hasn't seen the success they want yet? Thinking about journaling this way leads to better questions where you use your intelligence to your advantage. You come from a place of loving kindness and compassion. If you ask yourself, why is it so hard to lose weight? Your mind will look for those answers, and those answers don't help. Instead, if you ask yourself, how can I make weight loss easier this week? You'll end up with much better, more productive answers. Using the Kaizen method, you know it's impossible to fail. So give yourself grace and don't be hard on yourself. Celebrate when you do something well and be proud of everything you accomplish. Celebrating accomplishments can feel like a tough thing to do because one of the reasons you managed to get this far in life is that you did it without external validation. Being a good mother, employee, spouse, or leader are all done without constant acknowledgement of a job well done. Instead, it's just expected of you. And if you don't report accomplishments to an empathetic witness or celebrate your victories, these thankless standards will spill over to your personal self worth and deeply poison your subconscious. If you want to get motivated and stay motivated, the best method is to measure it. Write down your accomplishments and report it on a daily basis to an empathetic witness. An empathetic witness is someone that cares about you and can actively listen to what you say. They'll help prevent you from falling into an emotional gap of feeling like what you did is not a big enough accomplishment. They will be able to recognize the significance of your accomplishments in a way that doesn't let you downplay your own success. This is often a psychologist or a health coach you trust that embodies a positive growth mindset. Dr. Benjamin Hardy is a psychologist and the world's leading expert on the future self concept, extensively researching the importance of measuring backwards from the gain or what you've already accomplished versus measuring what you have not achieved, which is the gap. When people have suffered from depression, anxiety, OCD, or ADHD, there's a tendency to create a world of disappointment that only exists because we say it exists. This incorrect way of thinking is called confabulation, or measuring the gap. Let's say your goal for today is to go out for a walk. While you're out for a walk, it started to rain. So you say, I went out for a walk, but I didn't get all the steps I wanted because it started to rain. Everything you said after the but is measuring what did not happen, which leads to feeling like a failure. If you measure correctly and tell this to an empathetic witness, they can tell you what actually happened, and that will prevent you from self-sabotaging based on the way that you're talking about your accomplishments. You remember, you need to give yourself credit. If you want to prevent self-sabotage, you need to give yourself credit. Simply saying, I accomplished my goal of walking today is also true and makes you feel like a winner. This is measuring what actually happened versus comparing yourself to an ideal. When we actively measure the progress being made instead of focusing on what did not happen, that's when you see progress. Seeing progress is what causes motivation. And if all you do is improve, then it's impossible to fail. By reporting your accomplishments on a daily basis, your mind will default to thinking of the ways you can win the day. If you keep winning every day, you identify as a winner. Winners feel amazing and keep winning. If you do the opposite and you don't write down your accomplishments, then you'll reinforce searching for all your mistakes, the problems that need to be fixed. The reality is that when you accomplish something, you should feel proud of yourself. You are amazing, and you deserve to feel great when you do something that improves who you are. Don't let anyone take that feeling of accomplishment away from you, not even yourself. If someone isn't celebrating when you have good things to say in your life, then you have to be that person. When you celebrate your accomplishments, it needs to be done in the right way in order to reinforce that behavior. The goal is to make it deep and meaningful. Finding out the best way to celebrate depends on what your love language is. Your love language being what your parents did for you to show they cared while you were in your childhood. Or if you had neglectful or shitty parents, then the default way is to celebrate the accomplishments in a way that you would do for someone else that you care about. So, like, say you have kids or you have friends or whatever your default way is of thinking about celebrating for them, that's probably what your love language is. There's 5 love languages. There are words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and gift giving. Of these, you want to pick the one or ones that mean the most to you as a reward when you accomplish something for your physical, mental, or emotional health. For example, mine is quality time. So the best celebration I can have for myself is to create incredible memories like a weekend vacation with my kids, going out with my wife somewhere fun, or hosting a party with a few good friends. Or yours might be physical touch. So the reward for an accomplishment, such as walking during your lunch break, could be playtime with your dog with plenty of hugs. Words of affirmation as a reward could be sharing your accomplishments with some good friends, a support group, or a mastermind that'll congratulate you for your accomplishments. Acts of service could be paying someone to do something you'd normally do for yourself, like deep cleaning the house, enjoying a spa day, or planning a vacation. Gift giving would be buying yourself something nice. This type of positive reinforcement needs to happen on a regular basis in order for you to get used to feeling loved and deeply cared about. Only looking to others for validation will never bring the fulfillment you're looking for in life. Self love is the only path to feeling like you're complete. That doesn't mean you can get through life on your own. Nobody does. Nobody gets through life on their own. That means that you are the one who shows that you care first. That puts you in control. When times get hard, it's you that needs to reach out for help if you want things to change. Without reaching out for help, it causes you to pull back from people. This pulling back prevents others from helping, and the internal dialogue will default to negative reasons why nobody cares and nobody wants to help you. You end up isolated from what you need in life, and it'll feel like a tunnel that's pitch black. No light at the end of the tunnel, just walking aimlessly, feeling like help is out of reach. Seeing a light at the end of the tunnel guides you on the right path. Adding a forcing function is like driving a car instead of walking so you get there without needing willpower. Remove willpower for success. Knowing everything you've learned in this book is not enough to ensure it will actually happen. This is where you add in forcing functions to remove willpower from the equation and guarantee you'll be successful. We are not held back by obstacles, but by a clearer path to lesser goals. If you don't dream big enough, give yourself credit for your accomplishments, report these to an empathetic witness, and choose the right 1% improvements to make consistently, then you're leaving your success up to chance. To remove willpower from the equation, you need a forcing function, which is a metaphorical line in the sand. You're burning your boats and going all in with a point of no return, not only because you want to, but because you need to. Commitment to change needs to be absolute. Achieving your physical, mental, and emotional health goals needs to be a 100% commitment, and here's why. Say every day at work, your coworker offers to buy your favorite super processed, super unhealthy, super delicious drink that makes you gain weight, sending you into an emotional tailspin every single time you have it. If you are 99% committed, you might be mentally strong enough to resist that temptation, but that still means you'll always have to send it through a decision-making process. And like we talked about in previous chapters, this causes that adrenal fatigue. You now need to ask yourself every day, should I or shouldn't I have this drink today? We can only make so many decisions in the day before we just flat out don't care anymore. That's when that incredibly smart brain of yours will do gymnastics to justify having the drink, even though you know it's the opposite of your goal. But if instead you had something forcing you to be 100% committed, then there's no willpower needed because the decision has already been made. Forcing functions create a point of no return so that even if you don't feel like accomplishing something, you don't have a choice in the matter. If the one you loved most in the world is going to die in the next 20 minutes unless you drive them to a hospital, you wouldn't worry about having a valid driver's license, speed limits, blizzards, getting a ticket, or even driving on a flat tire. All of those things could stop you from driving normally, but you do it anyway because you're forced to by the situation. You can create forcing functions with your physical, mental, and emotional health as well. People are much more loss averse than they are goal oriented, with psychological studies showing that people are more than twice as likely to keep what they have versus get something they've never had before. The most effective forcing functions are ones that are tied to other people or large financial investments. Ones tied to other people would be ones like needing to lose weight and change your eating habits after being diagnosed with diabetes so you can be alive and happy for the ones you love. Ask yourself, who can I do this for? Who can you commit to have a better life, not just for yourself, but for someone you love? How can you stake your success on the well being of that person? Large financial commitments are extremely effective because this allows you to pay for a shortcut while also feeling like you need to get your money's worth. There are lots of ways that you can commit financially to achieving your physical, mental, and emotional health goals. You can pay for a personal trainer, health coach, psychologist, mastermind, and for the guidance on how to get from where you are to where you want to be. The bigger the commitment, the higher the likelihood of your success because the people that pay more pay attention. If a random person says you probably shouldn't get that drink from your coworker that makes you gain weight and makes you feel like crap, you might listen. But if you are paying a professional thousands of dollars to get healthy and they tell you that that processed drink isn't worth it, you'll take that recommendation much more seriously. Unfortunately, most people never take a large financial leap for what they need in life, but instead look for the cheapest option they can afford, giving them the same low end results for the low end price they paid. I have personally invested well over $100,000 into myself outside of college and continue to do so because that forces me to continue to improve my clients' results and help more people. Better client results and helping more people means I have a better business, which gives me a better life. I have a better life not because I want one, it's because I need one due to the investments that I've made. If you aren't doing the best financially, then a large financial investment lights a fire under you because you cannot afford to waste the money. I understand that finances can get in the way, but I never want that to stop someone from reaching their goals.